witnessing a judgment of Solomon.
And this is
Thought Crimes.
Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. How about that question?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment. I only have one question.
Fucking lie!
You fucking with? I run shit here. You just live here.
I want to sing y'all a brand new song I just wrote called Don't Trust Them New Niggas Over There.
Now don't be a Negro, be my nigga. All right, help me out.
Hold on. I ain't nobody's nigga.
Well, I mean, you somebody's nigga wearing this nigga top.
Bitch ain't no legend. I'm the legend in this motherfucker. You can't be no legend and you 5 fucking years old. This motherfucker just called somebody a legend. Oh my.
We'll do it live. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
What business are you in?
Oh, I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing.
What business are you in?
Oh, I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing. I'm pushing. I'm pushing. I'm pushing.
What business are you in?
Oh, I make my bread and butter.
Welcome to Thought Crime, baby.
That's right, and we are in the business of giving you all the best live streams you can find here on the internet. Of course, this is your man, Prince Solomon, along here with
Sincere Ignorance.
That's right, folks, and to let you know, we are streaming on Facebook, Patreon. Well, not Patreon. We're not streaming on Patreon. We do occasionally stream on Patreon, but we also are streaming on Periscope. We are streaming on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can find us. We are live now, and of course, we're here on YouTube. And again, we are here, and we're going to be talking about part 1 and 2 of the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly, produced by Dream Hampton, and we're going to be sharing our thoughts on that along with some other subtopics as well. Sam, you want to break that down for us?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to be talking about what took place with Jasmine, 7-year-old girl that was shot down. They have a sketch of the assailant, and we're going to be talking about how the youth is not protected. Of course, we're going to go into also the shifting on the polls on our Patreon. As Prince stated, we do have live streams on our Patreon and on our Crowdcast, so we will be talking about the shifting on the polls. I know during the first R. Kelly conversation, people want to know what our thoughts on that. And also, we will be talking about what's taking place in government right now, of course. The House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. We also have legislation that the House want to definitely push forward that more than likely will get killed in the Senate. We'll talk about those things on Patreon, especially the shifting of the polls, because that's extremely important. And we will be talking about that on Patreon. And we will be talking about part 3 and part 4 of the R. Kelly, Surviving R. Kelly tonight on TCZ as well. So we're going to be actually on there late, probably going to be coming back around 11 p.m. because we have to watch part 3 and part 4 before we give our, assessment on it. So that will be tonight once the premiere of part 3 and part 4 ends on Lifetime. And also thank you to Eric for the donation. Happy New Year's for anyone who didn't see that live stream, who's just coming in. We love y'all. There are a lot of sensible black people out there. We already understand that not every black person is a sympathizer of child rapists, as R. Kelly or Chris Stokes and different things like that. So we do appreciate the sensible black people out there who are about protecting black children, not just from bullets, but also sexual predators and deviancy.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. And again, we do appreciate you for showing up to this live stream. We're going to be sharing our thoughts on Surviving R. Kelly, parts 1 and 2. Sin and I had a chance to basically ingest the docuseries, those parts of the docuseries. To be honest with you, personally, there was a lot of things that I saw in the docuseries that I had already known. But what was interesting for me was the ability to actually hear the victims themselves and what they shared. But again, nonetheless, a disgusting individual known as R. Kelly, who had been protected for over 20 years. Now, I know the trial in itself was a little more than 15 years ago, but let's keep this in mind. He has been operating with impunity within the city city of Chicago and other cities nationally without being checked. There were no ramifications for some of his actions. In fact, R. Kelly had a lot of enablers in his circles, and some of those enablers happened to be sitting down during that Surviving R. Kelly Parts 1 and 2, and to be honest with you, I felt some of them were trying to play down their guilt. But yes, we're going to be sharing our thoughts on that. You ready to go ahead and get into that scene? Do you want to get into that, or we're going to talk about this young lady, Jasmine, this young girl that was killed? You want to talk about that first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and talk about that
I'm gonna pause
first.
the music for a moment. I agree. I think we should go into Jasmine first before we go into this, and basically showcase what took place here. Again, I told you a little bit earlier that there is a sketch that could possibly lead to discovering the person who killed her. This is Jasmine's mother right now, talking. She's in the hospital, or she was in the hospital.
It was not fair. It was not fair. He intentionally killed my child for no reason. My baby from me, and you have no care in the world. And I just wish you would turn yourself in.
So I have a 5-year-old daughter, man. So, that could have been anybody in that position on this team.
My baby comes and asks me, where's my sister? Is she coming back? She does not deserve to wake up without her sister. It's not fair.
So you heard it right there, what tragically happened to 7-year-old Jasmine and the trauma that the family is now facing, the mother, her siblings. It's definitely a tragic situation, and it's senseless violence that we're talking about that takes place every day, and that also occurs towards children.
Absolutely, and it's unfortunate what had taken place. And again, did you have the picture of the suspect, right? They had a sketch of the suspect.
Let me,
yeah, there you go,
yeah,
right
there.
there.
Go, right there.
So there you go. There's the picture, a sketch, a compository sketch of the suspect, a senseless murder. It was basically a killing. It actually reminds me of the situation that happened not too long ago with Bianca Robertson. I don't know if you remember that situation where you had that 28-year-old white male gun her down in a road rage incident. So the fact
that was based out in Philly or
I think it was
Jersey.
Missouri. Was it Missouri?
Oh, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you remember that incident, right?
There was a couple of them.
Yeah, we covered it. And again, this is what we're talking about basically with the youth. If we're talking about teens, later teens, black teens, and of course the babies, the black babies, girls and boys that are not all that protected, when it comes to this society, what we see now. We do not know what the motives were for this crazy, deranged individual to gun down a little girl. She was 7 years old, correct?
Yes, and actually, Prince, if you don't mind, can you actually look for Jasmine's GoFundMe so we can actually put it in the chat room for everybody to go check out for the funeral expenses, because it's very important for us to support the families that are going through this type of trauma, losing a child, and also to donate to organizations that are about protecting children and also ending violence within certain communities, whether it's armed robbery, and any type of violent crime. Like, it's very important for criminals like this to be taken off of the street. Who knows if this guy has had a long rap sheet that he should be in prison instead of out doing what he's doing. Also, thank you, Prince, for giving that GoFundMe into the chat room. I'm also going to copy it and put it into the description box
as well.
As well, yes.
All right. Also, by the way, again, we are streaming live on Periscope, therefore by way of Twitter. Then there's Facebook, and then, of course, YouTube. And then this cast itself will be rebroadcasted, folks, and you'll get a chance to have the opportunity to re-listen if you're just coming into the live stream. And again, we're talking about the likes of 7-year-old Jasmine, who was sensibly taken away from her family. And to be honest with you, of course, they had to raise money for funeral expenses. I believe the goal was $6,500. They have actually raised $59,223. So that's a wonderful job for the people who decided to turn out. And again, reposting a link in the chat room right now. Yes.
And let's get this guy caught too. You know, he shouldn't get away with what he did. He took a young life from this world, and again, a monster. You know. He needs to be caught, needs to be trialed, and he needs to be put in prison. And also a round of applause to the NFL player who also brought more awareness to what took place here, and also his support of the family.
There you go. And another reason why it's very important to have this individual apprehended, because we do not know if this is a serial habit of his. Is this something that he's done before? Because we don't know if there's any other senseless situations that people don't know what happened to their family members, or they may have been struck with a bullet, and that he may have been randomly doing this, targeting black people. You know what I'm saying? Because this does happen, and there are many stories of black travelers, especially when you're getting by way of the Mississippi, the New Orleans and the Texas and the Georgias and the Floridas and the Tennessees and the Memphis area, that there have been black travelers who had been accosted or assaulted by the likes of individuals who were sharing racist ideology. So yes, it's very important. So, you know, get this individual arrested so justice can be served on the behalf of little Jasmine.
And also, yes, that's right, Eric. So far, they said it may be put as a hate crime. This person definitely could be a white male who could have purposely tried to target the family, and that's why, you know, Jasmine is dead right now, 7-year-old girl. So we definitely need to make sure this person is caught. Right now, they're still investigating, and they also are investigating to see if this was a hate crime as well.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the mother, LaPortia Washington, was shot in the arm. And, of course, Jasmine had a surviving sister, Barnes, 6-year-old, who was injured by shattered glass. So, to be honest with you, there was a family in the car, and they were just on another outing, a traditional outing. And next thing you know, this takes place. And, again, Michael Watts, more than likely, has since stated that it is leaning towards being classified as a hate crime.
Well, absolutely. It definitely could have been racially motivated. And we're going to keep our eye on this story to see what information come about. But I agree there should be a nationwide manhunt that should be on its way right now. Should have already started for justice for this little girl and what took place to our family.
Absolutely, absolutely. Most unfortunate, we'll definitely keep our eye on the situation, and any update you all will hear from us. We'll either have it reposted in the YouTube communities, you'll see it on Twitter, you'll see it on Facebook, you know, and any information that you all may know, you can always contact us at thoughtcrimes1984@gmail.com. Again, that's thoughtcrimes1984@gmail.com.
We're moving on to the next subject, which is R. Kelly. We saw part 1 and part 2 of what took place there with surviving R. Kelly. And of course, it was very disturbing for those who've already paid attention outside of Chicago on what's been going on pertaining to R. Kelly as a alleged child rapist. You already know a lot of things pertaining to his history. But the docuseries so far, part 1 and part 2, have brought light to a lot of things that people may not have known about, and to be honest with you, what most people have not learned.
Yeah, you know, it was very interesting to hear directly from some of the victims, and even with the likes of Sparkle, who said, you know, for the most part, her niece was accosted. Her niece was sexually assaulted, and
the porn. She was her niece was in the porn videos too.
Yes, she was. And you look, to be honest with you, me personally, I didn't need any more convincing about R. Kelly, pretty much from just people moving in and out of Chicago area. I've heard stories about this man for almost over 20 years, 15 years, to be honest with you. But the victims needed to tell their story because you had a public, and you still have a public to some aspect, that are not believing, what they have heard about R. Kelly.
Choosing.
And this is intentionally. Now, let's keep in mind, this is intentionally only because of the circumstances of celebrity. But there are people who are choosing to reluctantly understand what exactly R. Kelly means and what type of monster and what type of reputation he has. So again, Surviving R. Kelly Parts 1 and 2, very detailed. And again, we're going to proceed in talking about this. So, Sin, for you, when we sat down, like, what was your personal opinions about, because we talked a little bit behind the scenes, but, now we're talking for the public. So what was some of the things you walked away from parts 1 and 2?
There was that R. Kelly is the biggest monster, but there are little monsters running around as well. Mm-hmm. Sparkle, to me, in my personal opinion, she was a victim that became an accessory to what took place there with R. Kelly. I mean, you gave up your niece, and you knew there were things that were taking place with R. Kelly where he was having sex with underage girls. Then you act surprised that he peed in your niece's mouth on one of the child pornography videos that he did. For those who don't know, and for those who keep making excuses for him, because we needed to hold people accountable in our community. Anybody in this stream, listening, chat room, anywhere, Twitter, black people on Facebook, black people, period. Everybody should be muting R. Kelly. He had over 121 videotapes of himself peeing and defecating and fucking children. And people forget that those videotapes were thrown out of court because of an illegal acquiring of that evidence. It wasn't done with a warrant, and that helped R. Kelly to go free, along with the extremely disappointing behavior by black people who were adults around that time, who were celebrating R. Kelly and trying to call him a hero, even though he has multiple videos pissing and defecating on little girls. So he should be muted, and his money should be dry. No one should be defending him. Now, let me go through the talking points that I've heard so far that I've gathered of people who have defended him. One person have said, or a couple have said, R. Kelly is one of ours. You never thrown out one of yours. R. Kelly is not one of mine. I don't have pedophile friends. I don't have pedophile family members, meaning people I mess with. I don't allow pedophiles to be associated with me at all. I don't care if they're so-called black. I don't care if it's a adult black male or female. I do not hang out with pedophiles. So no, they are not my own. I don't care what happens to R. Kelly in a negative manner. Nor is this a lynching or a mob lynching lynch mob that everybody's talking about, where they say people want R. Kelly to be lynched and they're going after him because he's rich. No. People are going after him because he defecated and pissed on girls, black girls, and got away with it because he had money. And also because of the poor operation of the police officers, again, who acquired the evidence without a warrant. And yes, this is very wild because, he's also allegedly involved with sex trafficking, R. Kelly. So this person is very disturbing. And what is even more disturbing is a segment of the black community trying to hold on to R. Kelly because he's a black man who defecates and pees on little black girls. So in their mind, an adult male is more important than little black girls.
Well, and to be honest with you, it's the auspice of celebrity, which is most important to these people. Because even now, as I peruse the landscape of, YouTube, just to see some of the reviews, I notice many of the people out of the T community, whether we're talking about rap or the Love and Hip Hop or the Real Housewives of Atlanta, YouTubers that always reporting on that type of stuff, I noticed that they're only approaching this subject matter by way of celebrity, again, with the victim, speaking only of the likes of Aaliyah. Again, here's my thing about it. Aaliyah's dead. Aaliyah's dead. All right, let it go. It's gone. She's dead. The culture dropped the ball. There's no reason for us to go back and re-examine what was already out there. Everybody talked around it, whether you're talking about the MTV raps, the people who cut songs with him. Everybody knew that man was having sex with Aaliyah. All right? Getting his hands on her at the likes of 12 years old. Seeing now we talked about this. We talked about the pregnancy. We talked about all of this stuff pertaining to Aaliyah because when we was growing up, we paid attention. We did our research. And I personally have heard stories directly about R. Kelly. All right. So as far as that goes, look, even with the culture, look how they responded. They're not really mentioning none of these other girls' names. They're going right to the Aaliyah stuff. Again, clickbait. It's about celebrity. Oh, we heard that Aaliyah and Aaliyah's mama had sex with R. Kelly. Disregarding the other black women, the black women who are now adults, who have to deal with the psychological damage and the trauma that R. Kelly has inflicted on them. Let's keep in mind that not only was he sexually abusing them, but also he was physical. He was beating them. So we're talking about people, little babies, 14 years old, 13, 15. This whole thing, like I saw his old slow ass brother talking from jail, all right, with those yellow stained teeth. He was, Kelly, so what? He like girls, yeah, I like women a little early. And one thing that kept troubling my spirit about this situation, and seeing how we was talking about it, is how periodically through the documentary, those people who happen to be enablers kept referring to these little girls who were 14 and 15 as women. He liked young women. He kept frequenting young women. When you're 14, when you're 13, you're not a woman. You're not a woman. You don't know anything about life. You're a child. So what is interesting again is that the culture dropped the ball. Okay, walking away from Surviving R. Kelly Parts 1 and 2, all I hear people right now, the YouTubers, the commentators, the ones that call themselves voices of authority, all culture, whatever that means, they're only talking about in the space of celebrity again, R. Kelly and Aaliyah. Like I said, that's gone. It's on record that they had a marriage license. It's on record that it was a fraudulent. Papers were forged. They said she was 18 when she was really 15. He was messing around with her when she was 14 and probably 13 and even younger. He had records called Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. It was all in front of everybody's face. So let's not go back and try to be Inspector Gadget now. Let's move forward and talk about these women who we've never heard their voices before. Now, this is the first time many of these women are going public. But again, a dizzy public, blinded by celebrity, only focused on Aaliyah's name. That's what I got from this situation with Parts 1 and 2. Cindy and I, we actually, watched and rewatched Parts again. And we thought it was interesting as soon as we decided to say, all right, let's see what the peanut gallery's talking about. And all we saw was Aaliyah's name. And I said, well, there we go again, dropping the ball again.
Well, Aaliyah was only spoken about for 15 minutes on Part 1 and Part 2 if you add it all up.
Yes.
They weren't just talking about her. And even though she does deserve to be discussed and analyzed because she was the first public victim that people didn't seem to care about. And it's not just about black women or single moms. Like, people forget that Aaliyah was introduced to R. Kelly by her uncle, just like the little girl was introduced to R. Kelly by her was it aunt or
auntie?
By her aunt,
yes.
Aunt Sparkle. These young girls were being introduced by fathers, by mothers, by fathers and mothers, in union with each other, by aunts, by uncles, by cousins, and a lot of people drop the ball because they're enamored with a celebrity. I'm gonna tell you this on Thought Crimes. I don't give a fuck who you mention. I don't care if you mention James Brown. I don't care if you mention Sam Cooke. I don't care if you mention Michael Jackson. I don't care if you mention anybody, Biggie, whoever. If there's proof that they have been behaving in a manner that is dangerous against children, I would drop their asses too, because it don't mean shit to me.
Yeah, the thing about it here is, like, what I find funny is that, you got people, whenever we're discussing R. Kelly, I always call it the dodgeball game. You ever remember dodgeball? They don't hit me. Don't tag him. Don't tag him. As soon as we start talking about R. Kelly, people throw in other balls. Michael Jackson, James Brown, Pence, Sam Cooke. Baby, I don't care who you mention. R. Kelly still got to go. And he can take as many souls with him. I don't care if it's any of these entertainers. I will continue to delete from my R drive. That's just how I live my life. That's how Sin lives her life.
And real quick, we're not saying all those people have done something. I'm just using
these are just hypotheticals.
Using it as an example. If I find out there's any proof about any celebrity or artist,
they gotta go.
Whoever, I will drop them no matter what. I am not a star fucker.
Yeah, and so that's the thing about it. So a lot of people keep mentioning these names as if somehow I'm going to pause and be like, man, you right, damn. I didn't know that, James. Wow, man, you know what, Sam Cooke, bro, man, you right. Let me leave R. Kelly alone. Absolutely not. Sam Cooke can take his neat afro on if that is the case as well. See, we have to understand this about integrity. These are terms that are not mentioned as much and not celebrated characteristics anymore. Integrity, honor, consistency in the light. So when I see somebody by the likes of John Legend sitting in that documentary, and the fact that we had somebody like Questlove who said to Dream Hampton that I can't do this for you, basically.
Let's get over there tonight.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so, it was an interesting situation for me because, Questlove comes out of that proto-blipster community, that whole conscious hip-hop, I'm enlightened, I'm a vegan, you shouldn't eat red meat, you shouldn't use white toilet tissue. He comes out of that whole space. And then he goes on later onto Twitter after he caught some flack because, they weren't having it. They said, Questlove, you turned this sister down and all you have to do is just speak in the documentary. I mean, R. Kelly don't have any more power, at least in the pronouncement of the culture. It wasn't like R. Kelly hasn't had a major hit album in 10 years, 10, 15 years, right? So he goes on Twitter and he decides to say he tries to clean it up. I just didn't want to be in the documentary speaking about his genius, right? And Dream Hampton got back at him. She says, that's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you. And then she corrected him. And then, of course, he deleted the tweet. Again, it's a celebrity circle. It is a celebrity circle. And what happens is not only you have enablers within the celebrity circle, but you have the star fucking public. And the public, a majority of them are star fuckers. They're blinded by celebrity. People slide in R. Kelly, their daughter. Oh, because I thought he was going to make my daughter a career. Like the Savage family. Playboy. R. Kelly had already pissed on black girls before you slid him your daughter. All of a sudden, you talking into the camera like you're concerned with the Bluetooth and the S-curl in your ear and your hair, saying, my daughter, I wanted to bring her back. I call bullshit on it. Because you are just as bad as R. Kelly, player. You see what I'm saying? And now you had to sit in front of the public and you had to eat crow. You had to eat crow. And a lot of these people that were sitting in that documentary, you can tell they were uneasy because they know they were complicit in enabling a monster such as R. Kelly. They couldn't even explain themselves. Halfway through their explanation, yeah, man. Like the one guy, the old school player that had the white shirt on the bald head, he was forging the documents for Aaliyah and R. Kelly to get married.
Oh, yeah, it looked like she wanted me to hug her and to help her, but, I just looked and, forged the marriage and all that. Because you're a bitch. You're a hungry, money, evil bitch who did that and was a co-signer of that because you wanted the money.
LB Wavy, I want shouts out to LB Wavy. The whole documentary was about the bag. Everybody in there had sold their souls. And they were selling the souls of little black girls in the process. They had the one producer, Craig Williams. He said something like this with his slick hair. Yeah, man. I walk into the studio, and it's like I go in one room. There's a little girl. I mean, I'm guessing she was 15 or 14.
She was naked.
Yeah, and I go in another room. There's an underage girl, and R. Kelly got his hand on her butt. And I go in another room. I'm like, what's going on? I don't want no parts of this.
He left. He did leave though, but it's like nobody called the cops on him though.
You left them girls there too.
You left them there.
You know what I'm saying?
You left them there.
Yeah, you left, but you left them girls there too.
No, you did. It's like, and it don't matter if you walk away. If you see children being harmed, you walking away don't make you any better at all. It don't make you any better.
I walk away.
All you did was left them there to get raped and molested some more.
Yeah, man, you know, he had little girls in the studio.
So,
I just left.
I love what Dream Hampton has done with this because she's showcasing, again,
a confessional.
All the people who were complicit. Mm-hmm. The whole black community is complicit.
Yeah.
Everybody is complicit because no one gave a damn about thousands of girls getting STDs too, getting herpes and other stuff they're catching from a grown man. So that means you're a 13-year-old girl and you gonna have herpes.
You don't know.
You don't even know what dating is or anything.
Yeah.
And you got herpes. And again, people who make excuses, you know, I prevent myself from going on too much of a tangent. But even though things like this bring me close to coming to a tangent, but I'm not only disgusted by people, it almost brings you close to hate. Because these people are all adults and they want you to stomach little girls getting fucked because they're pro-black. Or, for those who are not coming at the pro-black angle, they want you to stomach little girls getting fucked because they love R. Kelly's music. Bitch, there's hundreds of people who can fucking sing. I don't need to listen to R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's interesting about this is that let's preference this correctly, you all. Let's think about it in the hypotheticals. Well, in the actuality, right? In the literal. What they're telling you, many of these defenders of R. Kelly and atrocious individuals with the similar energy of R. Kelly, what they're telling you is that, look, they made a great song. That great song or CD prevents them from being identified as an atrocious human being. Think about that. They're saying a song protects them from being identified as a monster. You think about that for a moment. And that's exactly what the defenders of R. Kelly were saying. It's like I said, Sin knows me. Sin, how often do you hear me listen to Michael Jackson? I'm preference something real quick.
You haven't listened to him in a long time.
I don't listen.
But even though there's people we don't know for a fact, but there's been things that have been troubling.
A lot of troubling things fall out the closet about the likes of a Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I say that for a reason, because I've seen people try to leapfrog the argument and say in defense, in a passive defensive manner of R. Kelly, they throw out Michael Jackson. Like you're going to say, oh, yeah, man, you're right. Let me fall back on R. Kelly. No, player.
To me, like,
there's a lot of troubling stuff.
Saying you sleep in the bed with little kids that aren't yours.
Can't rock with that. Can't rock with that. Sin knows me. Sin knows me. Look, let me tell you what type of person I was. I was giving Michael Jackson the benefit of the doubt. You know, I said, oh, man, come on. Obviously, they after this man. When I was younger, especially in high school, I had bought the Invincible CD. I said, nah, man, you know, Michael, I don't know. I haven't seen anything that was all that questionable for me personally, right? But then I saw the interview with Martin Bashir. And look, I actually removed Martin Bashir from the situation. I didn't like how people was coming at his neck, to be honest with you. Michael Jackson sat there holding a child's hand in silk pajamas saying, I sleep in the bed with children. And when Martin Bashir kind of contested a little bit, he says, well, Michael, you surely don't you think that the people would look at this? No.
What I don't like in the bed with me. When people ask adults a question like, would you leave your kid in the bed with Michael?
And their immediate reaction is what?
Is no, but then they say he 100% didn't do it. I don't know if Michael did or didn't. What I do know is being a weirdo, if you have kids in your bed and they're not your kids, you're a weirdo.
Hey, let me tell you
they're
something.
They're not related to you. Why are they in your bed? Why are you watching movies with them? Why are you in a room by yourself with them? That's weird.
I have no problem saying no, I don't mess with that.
Yeah.
I don't mess with that.
That's weird.
I don't mess with that. Would you all let your children sleep in a bed with a random grown man? Yes or no? And that's the incredible hypocrisy from me personally when I see
a lot of people let R. Kelly.
Well, R. Kelly. Well, see, but here's the thing about it.
No,
though.
I'm just saying. But you asked that question. Then I thought about it. A lot of people allowed it with R. Kelly.
Well, I'm talking about the people who, like I said, like to leapfrog the argument and throw other celebrities in a way to protect R. Kelly. Because when you mention other names, you're still protecting R. Kelly.
But what about that guy? What's that guy with the artist that had them young girls coming over?
Which one?
The one that was sleeping with them young girls. The illustrator.
Oh, you're talking about the creator of Ren and Stimpy.
I don't know why any parent would allow any person,
Greed.
a preacher, a cop, a celebrity. It's very weird when you see how they allow their children to be with these adults who aren't related to them alone.
Well, the real issue here is this. It's greed. Can we just quantify everything? Can we stop over-intellectualizing the conversation with R. Kelly? Let's be honest.
No, but not all of it is greed. I'm just saying, that's why I said pastors. Like, we even have, pastors who are in there too.
Yeah, but I'm speaking to celebrity.
Okay.
I'm speaking to the Michael Jacksons. I'm speaking to the individual you brought up with Ren and Stimpy, because with that one girl who ended up getting raped by him routinely over and over, the mother was told by the creator of Ren and Stimpy, I will do wonders for your daughter in the career of animation. Oh, you mean there's money involved? Same thing with R. Kelly. I will do wonders for your daughter in the career of R&B. Again, money. Money. What you saw in that documentary was many adults who have sold their souls and sold little girl souls, little black girl souls. So, again, when we're talking about R. Kelly, please, you all, let's stop over-intellectualizing this conversation. People sold their children out. They sold their soul, and they didn't care because they were hypnotized by celebrity and the potential to make money off of their children. Okay? That's all it was about. It's very simple. And I think, to me personally, part of the reason why this has been going on for so long, too many people have been hiding in the spaces of what they claim to be nuances in conversations, which really, those nuances are not nuances. Those are excuses.
But I also think pastors should be brought up too, because there's a big thing with them too. I think any celebrity, non-celebrities, I know sometimes we are saying it makes it easier with people who are rich, but there are a lot of people who are non-celebrities or average who people do the same thing with pertaining to their children, pertaining to pastors, spiritual beliefs, what happened pertaining to Eddie Long, so it works in both spaces, and it needs to be confronted. Bambaataa, even though that's going back to celebrity, but it's also connected to cultural movements and different things like that. People who are overly in love with Chuck Berry and Elvis. It's like, you can also have other people. I mean, you could talk about Rosetta Tharpe, or Little Richard. There's other people who qualify as kings, queens, whatever, of rock and roll that you could talk about. You don't have to cape for a pedophile. And then two, pertaining to the R. Kelly situation, I'm gonna keep saying it because it's still really true. Sin is bumping 12 play. I've never listened to 12 play actually. Anyway, to get back to what I was saying, people are still making excuses for R. Kelly, who is a child rapist. People need to be comfortable saying he's a child rapist.
He's a molester.
Yeah. Now, people want to throw, of course, allegedly for illegal reasons, so allegedly whatever. But he's caught on tape 121 videotapes of him urinating and defecating on black girls. So I don't care what people keep bringing up, oh, black men. What the fuck are you talking about? Or giving him over to other groups of people. R. Kelly is not somebody I'm going to defend in any context or situation because he's having sex with little girls. And no different than, it's like, and then you got some of them who are defending Bambaataa because it's the same nonsense. Well, I'm defending a black man, but he's fucking little boys, little black boys.
Well, the reason why they're doing all of this too,
to me, there's a lot of weirdos running about.
Well, look, it's weirdos. You're absolutely right. Not only within the music industry, but outside the music industry. But in the music industry, especially the Bambaataa situation. Oh man, you know how far that goes up. You know how many people have participated in that. who knows how many celebrities were on tape doing the same thing as R. Kelly as well, the people within his circle. That's why a lot of them are quiet right now. And also, since we're speaking about the likes of pastors, remember the Church of God in Christ, otherwise known as Kojic. Remember, not too long ago, I'm going to go ahead and share a YouTube video for you all to check it out. Not too long ago, they had a big scandal about the trafficking and abuse and sexual abuse and the misconduct against young boys and young girls out of that whole thing, right? And remember, that was a big issue. I mean, and again, let's keep in mind, too, R. Kelly falls out of that whole Christian fundamentalism, and again, the distorted form of Christianity, the part that, you know, indicates slavery and manipulation and sexual abuse and trauma, but sit on it because God forgives. We're not talking about the Coptic Ethiopian Christianity originating out of East Africa. We're talking about the perverted control, a form of Christianity where there have been many people within the church, especially young black girls and black boys, who have been molested, have been raped, but have been told to sit on it because they either have a Jezebel spirit or God forgives all, leave it alone, and walk away.
Yeah, that Jezebel spirit is very important because there's actually a study that came out recently, and let me go to look for it real quick. But there's a study that came out that I'll link everybody to later, where it said that when it comes to black girls, even at the age of 5, people see them to be sexually grown and to be overly sexualized, where even when they're raped, there are a lot of people who will make excuses for the adult, like in R. Kelly situation as well. And it's very troublesome. It's very troublesome. But I also will say, we also got to stop the bullshit that it only stems from Europe. That's another thing. That's why I wish people would pick up a history book, because it actually irritates me how much inaccurate information you hear people say that just drops out of their mouth. Well, if it's just in Europe, and if we're just saying, well, pedophilia came just because of the Atlantic slave trade, then why is it in the Sudan, where they have child brides even that predates colonialism? We had also a young girl who ran away from a child marriage at the age of 14, lived with her aunt until the age of 18, came back because her family lied and said they missed her, and then she got raped at her wedding towards a man who was like 40 years old. So people need to start examining themselves and stop making excuses about disgusting, perverted, sexual behavior.
That's why it's gone on this far. And that's why we're over 20 years pretty much late with R. Kelly. Dream Hampton, again, the producer of the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries, one of the young girls actually tweeted her on Twitter and stated, how did you all let this go? And she said, look, it wasn't like people didn't try, but it wasn't exactly easy as far as those people having to fight against a hypnotized public, a biased system, and also just poor decision makings on the behalf of the law, jumping and circumventing the law and allowing for him to get off on a technicality. But that being said, that was no excuse to celebrate his abusive and very weird sadistic energy, because R. Kelly is one of those individuals, once you really digest what he did, it's hard to go back and listen to his music because he's left clues all through his music. I mean, not too long ago, he had a joint called Cookie Monster. I'm going to eat it up like a cookie monster. He had Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. I told Sin, that is one of the only Aaliyah albums I cannot listen to. I really can't listen to it. I really like her last project before she passed, unfortunately. But that Aaliyah album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, and he's sitting on the cover like a creep in the background, and she's all glammed up, and she's, over-sexualized on some John Benet Ramsey type of stuff.
13,
it's very interesting that does take place.
When she was 13, they put her out there, even the style, they wanted her to be overly sexualized.
Yes.
So she could come off as if, even though 16 is not any better either, but they was trying to make her look as grown as possible.
Well, you know what?
If she went from a 12-year-old girl wearing 12-year-old girly dresses,
yes, you saw it, At the pageant, you saw it at the competition she had on.
That
you know
somebody was trying to make her this grown woman.
One of the things that one of the guys said in the docuseries that was very interesting. I want you all, if you get a chance, if you watch parts 1 and 2, and Sin, we will be having the lines open, correct, a little bit later.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I want you to go back and listen to the language of the adults, and especially the men, right? Because one of the guys, I can't think of his name at the time. He's a cultural critic. You saw him a lot in the 90s and the early 2000s when he was criticizing hip-hop. But he said something that was interesting, saying, and I thought it did trouble my soul a little bit when he said that Aaliyah at 12 years old had a sexual energy about her, and R. Kelly played that up. I was like, no, she didn't. She was a little girl. There's nothing to sexualize. There's nothing to play up. No, it wasn't Touré. It wasn't Touré. Believe it or not, it wasn't Touré. He said some goofy stuff before.
He did say he did say goofy stuff like calling your little girls women.
Yeah, but all of the adults in the docuseries was doing that.
Some of them.
Yeah, they were all he was referring to these girls as women, and he kept saying, "Oh, he was traveling the country," and again, his special ed brother in jail really took the cake, where he kept saying, "Well, he like women that are a little younger," but the individual, I can't think of his name right now. He's an older guy, bald head. I think he had on a blue shirt. He used to work for Vibe. He used to be on BET during the hip hop panels in like 2003. But he said that R. Kelly played up her sexual energy that she already had at 12 and 13. And just the way he articulated it, I said, see, that's the shit I'm talking about right there. That's the problem right there. She's a little girl. Don't look at little girls and say, oh, they got a sexual. Even when a little girl is trying to be sexual, you look goofy, go sit down. That's all that had to be said. But again, the parents pawned it off because they wanted money. You see what I'm saying? People let things go out the window when they believe money, prestige, power, and status is at play. That's a great way to manipulate the public, as always. And that's why R. Kelly got away with a lot of the stuff he did.
Also, I love what Dream Hampton did because a lot of other celebrities are being talked about now.
Oh, yeah.
Like Chris Stokes. And then also those who didn't come out for the documentary, like Dave Chappelle and Erykah Badu and Questlove.
You mean Erykah Badu didn't bring out her lip with the hanger coat hanging in it?
Nope, Jay-Z and so on and so forth.
Best of both worlds.
And there's no reason. It's like what John Legend said. There should be no reason for people to be scared. But
there's no risk.
Yeah, there's no risk.
Unless you have some dirt on you.
Hey, that's
also, thank you all very much. The individual by the name of was American author, columnist, music, and culture critic, Nelson George. That was the brother's name that he said that in passing, and I thought it was a...
Oh, well,
yeah.
I thought he was explaining how it came off to the public, like what they were consuming with it. Because a lot of the young girls at that time, no fault of their own, let's say when your aunts or whatever, mid-Gen Xers were teenagers at that time and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. For them... they were like, yeah, that's the thing. They were singing the song, age ain't nothing but a number.
Creepy song.
Being little girls, not knowing, dressing up like Aaliyah. And there was a lot of people who actually thought Aaliyah was older. Like I said, even though 16 ain't any better, you're still underage. But a lot of the girls, she was actually relating to seniors and juniors as well that were in high school.
But think about it. This is how they got away with it, Sin. Right? Because when you look at Aaliyah's face, if you look at her in her little droopy eyes at that age, she looked like a young girl.
I know, they put the shades on her.
That's why they put the shades on her. Had the dark and lovely hair flowing, and then she had the half-cut shirts and stuff. And remember now, because I was talking to Sin about this, I said another thing about the video, if you look at it, the front of her pants were open, inviting through her genital area. Mm-hmm. Okay? It was all in the video. And remember what they said, that R. Kelly was the visualizer behind many videos. So he thought that was a good idea to have a young Aaliyah in a video talking about age ain't nothing but a number, an underage girl trying to seduce an older male with her pants unbuckled in the front. Think about that. And everybody who was goofy enough just sung along, age ain't nothing but a number.
Also, let's talk
you know
about,
what I'm saying?
They only have he only had 12-year-old to 15-year-old girls around him. And the little girls that were on the tour bus with him, when they went in the back, because they said they used to, have little pranks with each other, they saw that R. Kelly was having sex with an underage Aaliyah.
Because the door flung open.
In the back of the tour bus that they opened it because, they didn't know that took place, but they saw it.
Yeah, it's bullshit. That's what it said.
He was having
crazy.
sex with 11 to 15-year-olds in the
multiple times
in his studio, multiple beds, multiple
rooms.
Even K. Michelle, what a stupid person. But K. Michelle said when she went to one of his events or his house, he had underage girls in a fish tank doing kisses underwater. There are little girls with collars on them.
Well, yeah.
This is basically sex slaves.
That's all it is, because even remember the singer, the songstress by the name of Selena Johnson, who her voice was the one that was on When It Falls, It Falls All Down on Kanye West's first debut album. Keep in mind, she was very, in much so defensible of the likes of R. Kelly. She was defending R. Kelly. I don't care what anybody says. That's my brother. Same thing with, what's her name? Lil Mo. Same thing. That's my brother. I don't care what anybody says. So again, you had a lot of enablers in the industry and also outside the industry. And the reason why I bring the Aaliyah situation up, because I've had so many black men, and people in general, the dudes would be right in my face. When I say, man, I ain't fucking with R. Kelly's music. Bro, what you gonna do, man? He got free. What's a black man got to do to get... Bro, he had Aaliyah in the video with her pants unbuckled and hanging down, talking about age ain't nothing but a number. The girl was damn near, 14 at the time.
13, I think.
13, 14, and she's sitting there singing a song he wrote about seducing an older man. Like, how much more proof do we need? Because at that point, you're being stupid on purpose. And see, that's the problem. So we have to keep that in mind. A lot of people defended R. Kelly. Some of your more notable, and again, like John Legend said, what Sin alluded to as well, you're not losing anything with throwing R. Kelly out the window unless you're one of those celebrities who have dirt on you.
Now we're going to open up the phone lines for people to call in. The number is 281-899-0392, especially for those who have seen the docuseries. But if you haven't, you can still call in. The number is 281-899-0392. Give us your thoughts on the docuseries and the black women who were brave enough to also do this docuseries with Dream Hampton, April, and make it very clear that there were black women who are behind this docuseries, not the big bad white liberal ghost that everybody wants to talk about. Caller, name and where you're from.
Yo, this is Self. I'm calling from Chicago again.
What's up?
Hey, what's up? Hey, first of all, I just want to say, if I came off yesterday like I was defending R. Kelly at all, I just want to apologize off the rip for that. You know what I'm saying? Second, I want to say, I was just listening to a Beyonce song a minute ago, and it started off, it says, I may be young, but I'm ready, and to give it to you, all my love. And then I heard some stuff that says, just be sure you don't tell nobody. Then with all this, and I'm thinking, I'm listening to this with the R. Kelly thing and my subconscious in the background from watching it yesterday, and then I have to ask myself, is this everywhere?
It is.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It's everywhere in pop culture. It's from Elvis lyrics to Led
it's in
Zeppelin.
Film. It's in movies.
The Beatles.
It's in cartoons.
Movies where, I know people are going to laugh like, who the fuck watches Dawson's Creek? But just to give an example, a high school boy, he was like a sophomore or junior or something like that. And it was a big thing where the adult teacher, she was having sex with him in this show. And people were making it seem like there's some love there. And then there's multiple films. The Crush is a film about a 14-year-old girl who could play the violin, is a musical genius. The teacher kind of falls for her a little bit, makes a kiss, then pushes her away and say, oh, this is wrong. But it's still, at the end, the movie kind of make the 14-year-old girl like a crazy demon type, like, that she's crazy, and it kind of made the adult look like he's the victim and the hero. Yeah. So we've been having this for young boys and young girls in media since forever. I mean, I know, even as a kid looking at certain things, I was wondering, like, why do they have that? This weird thing where this sexuality is deemed okay between adult men and women with high school kids like it shouldn't be a no-no, even though the laws and legislation said you're not supposed to be with children.
Yeah, and also, caller, look, man, it's perfectly fine, player. I'm glad you called back in, and that makes a man of you. If you say, if my articulation came off a little weird, I understand completely. I'm always routinely sending out having to check ourselves and make sure we articulate ourselves very well. I'm very actually patient with folks because sometimes folks call in and they're nervous and they, it doesn't come off as clear as they thought they had it in their head. But to your point, caller, you got to think about it like this. I did a post not too long ago. I'm always having to reevaluate who am I supporting and what is going on with their art. And what type of message are they sending me in their art as well? So to be real with you, player, it is everywhere. If you really stop and I think I heard the song, I know what you're talking about Beyonce. But
we like the party.
Yeah.
With Andre
Yes.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
And you got to think about it like this.
It kicks off tomorrow. I may be young, but I'm ready.
Yeah.
Ready to get it.
But it's in a lot of Keith Sweats. Yeah, the Keith Sweats records. Yeah. Remember, you look like you're young and you ready. Like it has always been there.
She said, "Don't tell just don't tell nobody." What you talking about?
Yeah.
But look, okay. Can I drop another point real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Because you was talking about the Africanism, and I used to be really into a brother named Dr. Phil Valentine, who's a real powerful heavyweight in the Black conscious community. I don't know if you all ever heard of him, but I heard him say one time that, and the reason why they had in Africa, women would have their children from the age of 16 to 25. Therefore, when they're older, 25, they're done with all, having all their children, and they're ready to contribute to society because, the child having think part of the game is over with. So he said from 16 to 25 is when culturally they would have their kids because they knew what was best, and that's when the woman was most fertile and the child could have their best chance of being strong and this, that, and the third, and all these pseudo reasons why Africans chose to have those, to have the girls to have kids, when they first started developing out of, puberty and whatnot, because, they wanted the baby to be healthy and all that.
Yeah, you're right. I heard that about him as well. Even though, scientists already came out and said, especially for Black women, they're the most fertile group of women, for example. So even though it's still dangerous, there's a higher percentage of success for even Black women to give birth at the age of 50. Like we've seen it, for example, with Janet Jackson. And you do have a lot of these people who just say weird shit about women and girls. Like, some of them feel is a part of the culture or should be African to smack a bitch. Or women have to. We're talking about human beings with their own brain, whether it's a male or female. No one can force anyone to do anything. And I'm also glad that you brought it up because I don't want to make it just seems like it's just about celebrities. It's in spirituality. It's in, even outside of religion as well. It's just everywhere.
It is.
I remember.
It's in the Quran, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It's in the Holy Quran.
Yeah, when you die, you go to heaven and you get all the virgins.
Look, I was a Jehovah's Witness, right? So I said, let me go look back in some book. Okay, it was the Book of Bible Stories for Children. So I went online and I read it. I was with Prince. It was like a month ago. And the first fucking chapter with the Cain and Abel, they said Cain left with his sister. He fucked his sister.
But that was going on all through the Bible.
It said it plainly there. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
People been trying to
they have been
push children into thinking certain things, okay, from incest to adults having sex with children.
From Sunday school.
Yeah, from Sunday school.
Realistically, I'm going to keep it real with you, player, for all of the Kemetic talkers. I mean, I know a lot of them like to point at Greek and Greco-Rome, but if you pay attention to the traditions coming out of Kemet, there was a lot of brothers and sisters fucking each other because they wanted to create a bloodline of royalty, which really what they ended up creating was a bunch of dysfunctional, physically and mentally dysfunctional people. That's why a lot of that stuff was being plagued, and that is coming out of that era as well. Look, there's no problem with getting smarter and wiser as we move forward in societies, but again, let's not be arrogant as Black people like this doesn't afflict us and it's all through our culture as well.
Absolutely. Can I ask one more question and I'll take the answer off air so you all can move on?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think R. Kelly got connected to occultism and sex magic, and somebody might taught him like some sex magic, and he was using these little girls and sexual occultic sex magic rituals to get music industry power. I know I'm also out of freak shit, but I just, I got to try to throw a lot of stuff out there. Did some, Jewish guy tell him about, Kabbalion sex magic, and he was trying to demonstrate things on his level on the sick side of the game. So I'll take it off air. Thank you, Thought Crimes.
Thank you for calling in too,
appreciate
man.
you.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can go first. Go ahead first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and touch on that.
I think it for R. Kelly, I think at first it had nothing to do with any ritual. I think for him personally, it was a learned behavior from a child, and of him being molested, and that's something he kept using to also fuel his excuse to be a predator. Because that's the thing that actually also made him vulnerable to perception of other people. He used that as power, but as power in the backward sense, if that makes any sense for anyone. So I don't think it had anything to do with it while he started. But I do know, though, when you get away with something, like George Zimmerman got away with killing a kid, Trayvon Martin. So he became invincible in his head to where he pulling out the gun in front of anybody. I think with R. Kelly, since he got away with it, I think it even made him even more perverse, even more arrogant, where, of course, he was having parties where I'm sure certain type of false spiritualism was evoked there too, because a lot of these celebs and people in religion and in politics in these spaces, they do be having weirdo parties. Now, some of them start with their cultic crazy stuff. They're born in it, raised in it through religion or some other means. And some of them already were just doing this because they were victims themselves. And then as adults, they engaged in these predatory behaviors. So it's a mixed bag. But I don't think R. Kelly started in that with sex magic or anything. But it could have become that later.
Well, what I will say, and shouts out to Leonard De Yuda. He says, "Damn Prince, I'm checking out the Kojic thing. You dropped a bomb." Yeah, see, I grew up in the South. And Kojic is, if not, I think it's the biggest ministry, allegiance of churches. It's like it's throughout the South of Baptist churches. And I think there was a period, I remember, it was like a period of nothing but pastors being exposed, pastors, deacons, all being exposed for molesting, particularly not only little girls, but more so these guys were molesting little boys, young black boys. And it was a whole thing that it was just all over the news. That's why I wasn't all that surprised about Eddie Long, because I started hearing stories about Eddie Long growing up. But so here's the thing about it, to the previous caller, and saying you're absolutely right, but also what the caller is alluding to, there is a practice in many of these industries, specifically arts and entertainment, where I'm not saying I believe in it, but they do, where they do believe in having sex with young children, and they feel they are getting rejuvenated off of their energy, because when they take their essence, when you take the energy of a child, they feel they're taking power from them. For instance, I'm going to share a link in the chat room, by the way, here. You can check this out. This is how serious this stuff is for these people. There is a porn star by the name of Marsha May. Now, Marsha May spoke about the likes of the late XXXTentacion, where she talked about XXXTentacion was having sex with women while there was a pentagram under the bed. And I know it sounds silly, believe it or not, but these people do believe in a lot of this stuff. And I'm not saying if that's the case with R. Kelly, because I do lean more towards sin when it comes to the theory of R. Kelly. I do believe there was a mental retardation of him at some point in time growing up, because he seemed socially inept. The fact that his brother says if you looked at him too long, he started crying. And there was a guy I knew by the name of Paul who grew up with R. Kelly, and he said that R. Kelly was always a weird individual. He was socially inept. He couldn't hold a conversation. He stuttered ridiculously. He got nervous. Paul used to tell me he was basically looking like a scared puppy that would have pissed on himself if you spoke to him too long.
Also, we had this caller on hold for a little while because, of course, we wanted to get out our talking points.
By the way, I shared the link for the people to check that interview out about Marsha May and XXXTentacion.
Caller name and where you're from.
Yo, this is Vincent Taylor once again from PGC, man. What's up with y'all?
What's up, man?
Yo, actually, it's funny y'all mentioned that whole thing about the whole thing about having sex with children to gain some energy and all that stuff. I don't know if anyone here remember that South Park episode where they revived Chef.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it's like it was called the Super Adventure Club, and they believe that if you have sex with a child, you will gain their life, you will gain their energy, you will become some goofy shit like that. But I was like, I was like, huh.
Well, you know what they'll do real quick, caller, and because I didn't watch South Park. I didn't like the show, but I don't doubt it because what they do is they give you nuggets of their beliefs in that society. I'm just telling you, they give you nuggets.
That's, to be honest with you, that's the only reason why I even like South Park and what's the other one with the fat dad character? Yeah, Family Guy. I only like them shows because I like to see what they're trying to tell you about what people do in the industry. I thought The Simpsons had more of a balance of a little bit of sophistication.
But later on, they got a little bit of cultic with it too.
Yeah, but I think The Simpsons always been a cultic though of predicting things because they knew certain things within the industry. But I think they was just slightly classier with it.
You saw Stewie running around talking about Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, but Family Guy and the South Park was a more ratchet version of The Simpsons and talking about that stuff.
Yes.
And actually, to be honest with you, to be fair to both of those animations, I think because South Park and Family Guy went more into it. With The Simpsons, they didn't really touch on sexual perversion. It was more so on politics, political commentary at times,
and celebrity death.
Celebrity death, or focus on the family of The Simpsons. But Family Guy and South Park, just like the Boondocks, they were more focused on showcasing the sexual perversion of society.
Yeah, because it's like when I saw this shit, I was like, I remember like what was that on Don't Be a Menace with Gin and Juice and all that shit. I remember Keenan Ivory Wayans. When something deep would happen, he would come out and say message. I was like, message. There we go. All right, that's what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'll put y'all up, so I'm gonna dip out, man. Y'all take care.
You too, man. Thank you for calling in. Caller, name and where you're from.
I'm calling from Pittsburgh.
What's up, Pittsburgh in the building? How you doing today?
I'm good. I wanted to, now the sex tape came out with him in, 2001?
I think it was 2002. You want to double check on that, Prince?
Well, everything broke for him in 2000.
2000?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, these parents like the Savages, did introduce their daughter to him. Y'all knew his history, but yet y'all still took y'all young child to him.
Correct.
Why is that?
Correct, because they are part of the sex trafficking. People forget in India, for example, most of the young girls that are sold, and also in the Sudan, they're sold by their parents, and that's the same case for R. Kelly. Most of them are parents, uncles, aunts, cousins who are selling these little girls and giving him to them. There are a minority of cases where the parent didn't know when their child was picked up at a mall or something, but the majority of the parents did know and participated.
This is sick. I mean, is he going to be charged with anything?
He can't be, for new evidence, yeah. He could be charged for new evidence. That's why people have to have a close watch on him. For the past sex tapes, he can't be charged for because they illegally took the tapes from his house. The 121 videos of child pornography, the cops really fucked it up on that. They did it illegally. They should have gotten a warrant. And that's actually why he was acquitted, because they couldn't use that evidence in court because they illegally took those videos.
Oh, wow. This is sick. I feel sorry for those girls.
Oh, yeah, I feel sorry for them, too. I mean, I don't want to be disgusting. You definitely check it out when you get a chance, the docuseries, but the things alleged in that porn, from urinating to defecating on 12, 13, 14-year-old girls, to having them do things with adult women and him, it's crazy.
You know what it is, caller, as well. Do you understand, and I'm sure you sound like an astute individual, but do you understand how this confuses young children? Like for instance, when I was younger, and I saw people celebrating R. Kelly. And I remember being even younger when my older sister was telling me, well, you know, he had got Aaliyah pregnant when she was like 14, right? And to see the public, especially particularly people who look like us but don't act like us, you know what I'm saying? But they were speaking of him like he was a completely free man. And when I was younger, it's like, you know, when you're a little girl, you're a little boy, how can you believe the adults moving forward? You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Because, see, when I used to go to the bar, we used to have arguments about this because the guys were on his side. And it's like, because you're doing the same thing he's doing. You're sitting in the bar with us. We're 23, 24, but you're going to high school to pick up girls after school.
Mm-hmm.
So you're condoning what he's doing. That's why you're defending him.
Facts.
And then you had the parents in the neighborhood that was okay with these older guys want to go stay at their house with their kids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a good portion of society is okay with that. I remember when I was walking home from school, I had did my athletics, you know, basketball and stuff. So I didn't know that I had my, you know, pants a little bit too
Can you tell them how old you were?
I was like 11 or something
there
like that.
There you go. Preferences.
I wasn't even high school yet. I wasn't even in high school yet.
There you go.
So I'm walking down the block. First, it was all these dudes in the car beeping the horn. I was like, okay, this shit is weird. So I just ran further. Then some guy in some white van pulled up next to me and said, you know, why don't you come in the van? You know, let me take you home. I said, why are you talking to me? You a grown man. And then he retorted back to me. He said, well, I'm not the one that have my ass out. That's when I felt in the back of me. I was like, oh, damn. My sweatpants was too low, so my underwears were showing a little bit of my butt, and I hurried to pull it up. And I said, well, that's no reason to start talking to me. You could have let me know that my pants was down instead of trying to have me go in your van. So then I go across the street to go to my grandmother's house, like just irritated. And I saw a female neighbor at the time. I said, did you see that guy? He was trying to pick me up. And she didn't even care. She did not care at all. You know, so I just went in the house and just did my homework.
And you was 11, right?
Yeah, I was
you was 11 years old.
11 years old.
11 years old.
Once if you're in Spanish, okay? She was 11 years old. That's crazy.
This is sick. This is real sick. Because it's more than just him that's out there that's doing this. He's just a celebrity, so he's getting all the attention about it. Mm-hmm. But it's everyday people that's doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. And I'll tell you this, how many times I've had problems with, other dudes who, talking about pushing up on people's little sisters and stuff. You see what I'm saying? And look, I told Sin the story about this young girl. I think at the time I was, 20, 21? And this little girl, because she was a little girl to me, she was like 15 years old. And, she would come out in these shorts and, try to really be flirtatious. And I told her, you're too young. You need to go back in. But I had a chance one time to see when I was over the balcony. She was coming back from the mailbox and these dudes pulled up, and I think they went like an old Crown Vic. You know how Negroes do, riding around with old Crown Vics with a spare tire and stuff and a hubcap missing. So they rolled up on the side of her and they were hollering at her. The girl clearly looked like a baby in the face. But these men were grown as hell. So this is something that is of the norm. And to your point, caller, yes, our Achilles is being identified. But not only that, he's the monkey in the highest tree, so his butt is being shown. But there's a lot of monkeys with their butts in the grass pointing up at him that are doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are so right.
And to be
you
honest,
are so right.
They even had I remember even in grammar school, they used to have the security guards around the school, a grammar school. These girls are from 11 to 5, kids, where they had a report out that there was somebody in a white van that was trying to pick up little girls.
This is sick. We live in a sick world.
Well, yeah, that's why it's very important for people to stand on their square when it comes to underage people, underage individuals. Let's not waver. Let's not try to over-intellectualize what is wrong and what is right. Wrong is wrong, right is right. If a girl is 15, 16, 17, a little boy, because again, in some of these same neighborhoods, they pass it off on the boys as well as a Sankofa passage, as if you have sex with an older woman, whether you're 13, you heard the story of Chris Brown, they think, or the older men man tell them you are a man. No, you're
Lil
not.
Wayne, remember that
you know
video
what I'm
of
saying?
Lil Wayne telling that young boy it's okay to have sex because he had
said
sex at 11?
Yeah, 11 years old. They put grown-ass women strippers on him at 11 years old. Usher went through the same thing as well. And if we've seen how these men were dysfunctional in their relationships with grown women, we can also say that is tied back to their childhood experiences with inappropriate adults touching on them.
And the children shouldn't feel safe with nobody. You know, sometimes it'll come in the form of a couple. I was walking to the store one time when I was a kid. It was a black guy and a black woman. They said, come over. Like, they was like, come here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they wanted to talk to me, but they just looked evil. I walked faster. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the fuck out of here. So I walked faster and ran home. But it's like, it's a lot of weirdos out here, period.
Yeah. And if you don't believe it, again, all you have to do, and I tell some of the fellas all the time, again, we had the likes of Sonya Ross where she said she has witnessed sexual trauma in the likes of both black men and black women, but it is disproportionately higher amongst black women. For the fellas in denial about all of this, all you got to do is ask your homegirl, ask your sister, ask your mama, ask your grandma.
Mm-hmm.
They got stories.
Yes, they do.
And
thank y'all for taking my call.
And thank you for calling in, ma'am.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Caller, name and where you're from.
California.
What's up?
Hey, nothing much. I was calling to make a comment.
Okay, what's your opinion on this so far?
So far, I just want to say that it seems like we're normalizing pedophilia. What I'm getting is I've seen it. It's this show called 90 Day Fiance, and there was a young man on the show, and he had made a comment about he started having sex at 9, and I was like, wait, and no one thought to stop the conversation and say, wait, dude, you were molested, somebody abused you, and they just continued on the show like it wasn't nothing, and now as a man, he's sexually promiscuous, of course. I don't think he sees that there's any problem with that. I don't know if it's because of his culture or whatever, but as someone who has a sexual predator in my family, I feel that that's not okay, and there's something wrong with that. But it's almost like our boys, especially our boys, are told, like, that's okay, that's fine. You were abused, but you'll get over it. You'll be fine. It's okay. You're supposed to have sex with a grown woman. You're supposed to have sex at this age. It's cool. But, as an adult, male or female, you should think before you do things. You don't understand that you're causing this child to have issues as an adult in adulthood. When they become adults, they're going to always revert back to that time when they were sexually assaulted. I don't care if they supposedly consented. You cannot consent if you're under the age of 18, depending on what state you live in. But point blank period, if you're under the age of 18, you can't consent to sex with any adult. Point blank period.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. There is a normalization process. I can tell you that for a fact is when I was a young black boy, people thought nothing of it. I shared experiences what happened with me and older women, when I was younger. And, when I told the adults what happened, for the most part, they kind of smirked, laughed it off, slapped me on the back and said, hey, you a man now. You know what I'm saying? And that is something that goes on. Again, I brought the likes of Chris Brown. We see the problems he has been having. You've seen the likes of Usher. You can go through, even with Lil Wayne, as dysfunctional as he is, that all starts and originate in childhood. Many of us are just our experiences summed into one. So, yeah, there is a normalization. And people pass it off. People routinely in conversation, a lot of guys may say, yeah, man, I started having sex at 12, and they'll continue the conversation, and nobody thinks to stop them and say, yo, how did that affect you? And that wasn't right. And who was your mother? Who was your father? Mm-hmm. But that's the thing about it. That's a pervasive culture that has already sexualized children. You see what I'm saying? And again, when they tell you that little girls are fast, little girls not fast.
Ain't no
kids fast.
No kid. Not no kid.
Every time I hear that, like with the R. Kelly situation, I'm like on Instagram and I'm seeing these people, oh, that girl was fast. It doesn't matter. That's an adult. You are a grown man. You should not be looking at that little girl. You should take your butt over there somewhere and get you a grown woman. If you need sex, there's prostitutes that are adults. You do not need to have sex with a child. Point blank, period.
Oh,
but, of course, in our black culture, the first thing, I'm going to be honest, a lot of black women say, oh, she just fast. Oh, she just fast.
Oh, yeah.
No,
that's a big
she's
part.
not fast. Okay, but that's still a grown man. Why are you not holding him or her, responsible for what they did?
Oh, yeah, that's a big
Why are you blaming
part.
a child?
That's a big part of our culture. People forget, you see more women black women banding together now, and you see things changing with Black Girl Magic, but some people have amnesia that before, the young girl was always blamed. You know, that was very casual for women to do it too. You know, it was the black man at the expense of any child. That's how our culture used to rock. So, you know, one can say with the OJ thing, well, okay, whatever. But we've seen that behavior even with R. Kelly, with his men in the community, where you used to have women say black men before anybody else. And we saw it with the, you know, children getting abused. And people thought that shit was cool. Black men and black women thought black men above anybody else. And that shit, it needs to stop.
Even when it's your sibling, because I made a comment sometime last year about an uncle that I have. He sexually abused my cousin. They caught him. He still comes around like it's not anything. Now, my cousin, she has issues. She's on drugs. She has kids. She doesn't take care of them. They're adults now, but the fact of the matter is, because he's your sibling and you caught him doing this, nobody thought, you know, we need to put him to jail. We need to do this. We need to do that. But all her life as an adult, they always called her sluts and whores. It's like, you forget that your brother abused her. He was inside of her. You had to grab a pan to hit it over his head to get him off of her. She was like 10, 11 years old.
Oh, yeah. When I was a teenager at a family reunion, when we was on the bus, I didn't know about it, but my mom was acting hysterical because my grandfather allowed his brother, who assaulted my mother's sister, to come to the family reunion too on the bus. So my mom was like, he shouldn't be here. He's a pedophile. He did this to my aunt, this and that. And it's like everybody was a punk about it, you know.
Yes.
You know, to me personally, I do have maybe people in my family, they don't notice because I'm really relaxed most of the time, even though people may think I'm, you know, bouncy because I talk on the show. But I'm actually very relaxed. But there's a disconnect for me to an extent with them, even though it was weird because I love them at the same time. But there's a disconnect with me because it's like, well, how the fuck y'all, you know, even allow him to be at the family reunion? That shit is weird. He's a pedophile. I don't give a fuck, uncle, who, that, with that. That don't matter. A pedophile is a pedophile.
Yeah, it's because there's no resolution, you know, and the problem is that many people are scared to do the right thing in a sense of decency. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, for instance, you know, when I was a young boy, you know, I found out a friend of ours that was a little older, you know, he was messing around with a young girl. You know what I'm saying? And I told him, you know, you can't come around, you know, and everybody was like, yo, why you tripping? I said, nah, man, I don't mess with that. And on top of that, you know, I saw a situation where somebody was messing with a young girl. I think she was about 12, and I reported it. And nobody did anything. I reported it to the mother. Yeah, I'm kidding you not. The boy was about 18, and the girl had to be about 12. And I remember reporting it to the daycare center at the time. And I'm going to tell you something. A child perceives everything. At that very young age, I understood that adults were full of shit. And that's the attitude I walked with when I was younger, because I understood when I did the things that were classified as decent, as right, that the adults were the issues, that they didn't want to move on it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And there's this thing where, you know, people tell children that I'm the adult and what I say goes, and you have to adhere to a belief system that, you know, that's strict for the children, but not so much for the adult. It's the whole thing of do as I say, not as I do mentality.
A child should be seen and not heard.
Exactly. It's a slave thing. That's what it is. It's slavery.
Like people talk to kids like they're talking to dogs.
Yeah, it's a slave thing, you know, and you know, I remember reporting, I says, hey, you know, such and such was out on the court, on the playground, you know, soliciting sex, and had this little girl performing oral sex in front of me at an early age. You see what I'm saying? And I remember reporting all of this. And again, people were slow to react. And the boy, he laughed about it. He told me there was nothing I could do about it. And you know what? He was absolutely right. Outside of throwing rocks at us, as there was nothing I could do about it. You see what I'm saying?
But the crazy thing, now, I have a brother. My brother is a year older than me. He was 16 when his first child was born. The mother was 21. My mother wanted to report her. They told her that if you report her, is going to make him go crazy. And then he's going to run away. You won't see him again. Because both of my parents, they wanted to, charge her with them. They knew it. They wanted to charge her. They said, no, well, if you charge her, then it's going to make him want to run away. You're going to have issues with them. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, what? Yes. Like, they went to the police, and they told her this. Which is, they told my parents this.
Oh, yeah.
Craziest thing ever. I'm like, wow.
That's all adults have. I'm going to be honest with you. They have a bag full of excuses. It's routinely.
When Roxanne's mother tried to go.
Yeah.
And, try to prevent that adult perv from being with his daughter. Everybody in the community thought it was okay.
Everybody just has excuses. The adults just have excuses, but you tell the children do their homework. You see what I'm saying?
Basically.
A child will be confused in this country.
Yes. True. All the time. I see it every day. Thank you guys very much for answering my phone call. I enjoy everything that you do, all your live streams. This is the first time I ever called in, but I thought it was important to just make my comment because I just thought about that man on 90 Day Fiancé, and I'm like, you were sexually abused. And no one is stopped to think and say that to him. But I don't know if it's the culture in Jamaica or what. I just know that I just felt some type of way about that. But thank you guys very much for answering my call. You have a great day.
You too, and thank you for calling in. And to be honest with everybody, it's the culture of everywhere. Caller, name and where you're from.
Hey, family. This is Love Wisdom out of Jersey.
What's up, Love Wisdom? Jersey in the building. How you doing?
What's up? Good. I saw the docuseries last night, and when you talk about somebody wanted to, reach into the screen and, kill R. Kelly myself, it was disgusting. And to see the men there that were complicit, I think the worst part was when his brother was in jail, and he was just like, we all have a preference. I like older women. Some men like younger men. What's wrong with my brother? And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And he said it so casually, so what's the problem? You had the tour manager that forged documents knowing that Aaliyah was 15, and you forged it saying that she was 18, and you was an accessory to this, and you knew it was wrong. The dude with the slick back, he got a ponytail, saying he went to the studio and he saw one girl in one room. He was filling on the booty of another girl, and you can tell that these were not adults. I didn't check for IDs. And it's like, what are y'all doing to know that this man is a predator? But yet, it's no problem. It's no sweat off my sweat off my back. And it's like, and I'm glad you spoke about what happened to you, Sin, because when I was 15, I was a sophomore, and I was on my way to school, and this is older man. He had to be about 35 years old. And he kept saying hi to me every morning. Hi, being polite. And one day, he was just like, you're such a beautiful girl. And he gave me this diamond necklace. Keep this. This is between you and I. And I told my mother. And my mother ran up that hill so fast, and I pointed him out. And my mother had a baseball bat in her hand. And she almost knocked his head off. She said, do you realize how old this child is? She's 15 years old. Why are you giving her a necklace? And my mother called the police right then and there. It was like, no, this is a pedophile giving a 15-year-old child a necklace. A year later, 16 years old, I'm walking, this man right out the window. I can't wait for you to grow up so I can go with you. It's like random shit. At 15 and 16 years old, you got these grown-ass men catcalling you and giving you gifts. And you have a community that will sit back and be like, well, you fast as hell. You a slut. What did you do to make him do that to you? Nothing but minding my damn business.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like how you're defending these predators. You have little boys that have been molested by these men and women. I was watching Iyanla Van Zant, and you had this man, he was molested by his brother. And when he told his mother was like, whatever, can we just get over it? How can the children feel safe when the adults are sitting up here saying it's either your fault or let's just get over it? That's not something that you get over, and then you wonder why when they become adults, they have this dysfunctional mentality.
Oh, yeah. Even usually in the sibling situation as well, if one child, let's say there's 4 kids, 2 kids, 3 kids, 6 kids, if one of the children gets molested by an adult, even if it's the oldest, let's say 11 years old or 13 years old, that child will go on touch some of his or her siblings as well.
Absolutely. It's a pattern of habit. And not only that, Love Wisdom, to your point and Sin's point as well, let's just face it, black children are seen as expendable even by some of us.
A lot of us. Yeah.
Yes. And also I want to bring up, because I was listening to this during lunch, I didn't realize that Tevin Campbell was 17 when he sang the song Break It Down. And it was one part that said, I'd rather do you after school like some homework. Am I getting you hot? And this boy was 17 years old when he made that song. And I was like, damn.
Yeah, it's that serious.
And I'm thinking, like, I think it was the group High Five. I think they had the kissing game. And these were like teenagers. And I'm like, the music industry is sick.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Yeah, you're right about that, Love Wisdom. And, you know, I'm sure you remember, I think to me, one of the worst ones was Immature, the group. You know, and
Chris Stokes behind it.
Yeah,
they were like.
Did you see them when they had them with some of the photo shoots, sitting all in the bed, 4 boys laying on top of each other in underwears?
Well, he had them since they were like, you could say they were taller. They were little, mini little things.
With the little, got their hair 6. Permed in underwears. It was just some weird stuff, you know, right there in your face.
I think because you guys remember the Right On magazines back in the day with all the little teen groups. And Immature, I remember it was a poster of them in silk pajamas. And Marcus Houston had his hair parted down with 2 little ponytails and the little braids and rubber bands. And I was like, what kind of sick shit is this? Like, thinking about it now as an adult, you're like, what kind of sick, depraved shit is this? But back then, when you're like a fan, you're like, hey, this is my group. But the way they had these children over-sexualizing them, and I don't know if you guys talked about it in the beginning, but Aaliyah's mother is extremely upset with Lifetime because one of the background dancers, I forgot her name, that said that in the tour bus they caught R. Kelly and Aaliyah having sex, and the mother said that's not true. We were always with Aaliyah. Wherever she goes, we was always with her, so that's not true. And I'm sitting up here saying, with all due respect to the Horton family, you can't always be with your child because you weren't there when that tour manager forged that paperwork.
Yeah, and another thing is, let's say, hypothetically, we give the mother the benefit of the doubt, just for this conversation, just for this moment. If the uncle who introduced Aaliyah to R. Kelly lied and told you he was on the tour bus, he wasn't, according to all those other little girls. They were left alone with R. Kelly a lot of times.
Well, you know, my thing is this, you know, if you was always with Aaliyah, how did she get married? Or were you at the wedding?
Exactly. And my thing is, for parents, you have to, these days you can't trust anybody, even family, when it comes to your children.
Yep.
You have to be there for your children, because we have to be real. We have parents that have failed the community. We have people that have failed the children. You know, I remember when the tape came out with R. Kelly. And I'm just like, is he really pissing on this kid? And it was like, my dude. But then you had brothers, not all. You have brothers saying, yo, I got the tape on bootleg. Nigga, what?
Oh yeah, I remember that. You know, I remember that a lot of guys in the streets was talking about. They saw it. It was on bootleg. That they got the tape. Did you see it? You know, it was like, yo, son, I gave you that new Cassidy mixtape, but I got that new R. Kelly one too. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
Like, whoa, like that's crazy, bro. Like, this is a man who had sex with children. He was a predator. He was going to high school. He's meeting girls at 17, 18 years old. He damn near 40. And I know people like, well, he got molested too. I get it, but Sin made an excellent point yesterday about Busy Bone that got molested. Busy Bone became a defender for people that were molested. R. Kelly became a predator. And I think it was, last year or the year before last? He was busted again because he had a sex cult that somebody escaped from. So it's like, you have got to stop bullshitting. It's right there in your face what this man is doing. And the community is partly to blame for him running around and people still stepping in the name of love at the family barbecue, knowing he pissed on somebody. That could have been your child that he pissed on. That could have been anybody's child that man pissed on. But everybody, we stepping in the name of love. Yeah, step, side to side, half on the baby. It's like, really? So this is what we're going to say, fuck the kids. Fuck the kids don't matter. We're going to defend R. Kelly because he a black man. It's bigger than R. Kelly. It's the system. If y'all don't stop with that goddamn it's the system going after black men, this man is a predator. This man deserves to be shot.
You know what?
As well as all of the other people like him.
You know what, Love Wisdom? Here's the thing about it. Let's just, put it like this. Look, man, ain't nobody perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? But can we all agree to not fuck children?
Pedophiles. Can we all agree to get rid of pedophiles?
Yeah, can we all agree to not be cool with fucking children? And that's my thing about it. Everybody does this thing. It's like, Love Wisdom, if I caught you and you might have messed up on when an event happened. If you said, I saw Prince eating tuna fish yesterday at 2:30, and I'd be like, Love, I ate it at 1, you'd be like, oh, well, I'm not perfect. That's excusable. But people, R. Kelly fucked little girls, nobody's perfect. What?
Right.
Like, can we all agree that pedophiles are not good? Fucking children is not good. Like, what's the problem with that?
Also, Love Wisdom, what is your last words on this before we let you go?
My last words on it is that, look, you can't say that children are a blessing and you keep allowing them to fall into the hands of the predators. If you are really about the black community like you say you are, then you need to call these people out. You need to make sure these people go in jail. Do not ignore what your children are telling you. If you see something, you need to speak out on it and make sure that these men and women never, ever lay their hands on any children again. That is your duty as a black person, whether it's your child or not. Protect the children as much as you claim that you love them. And I'm out.
All right. Always the articulate Love Wisdom. She's been a TC84 OG Day One supporter. You know what I'm saying? So, again, shouts out to Love Wisdom. This thing is incredible for Sin and I. It's something we, and Sin shared, some of the stories, her as a young black girl growing up, about the predators in the community. I told you guys about the things I've seen and witnessed myself. The thing that I just, like I said, it's just interesting that you can't just come to a definitive no on as far as pedophiles. It's like, yo, just say it. It's not cool.
I just don't even know why people in families even just stomach them.
Yeah.
It's like there was one dude who came over to the house when I was a teenager and wanted to take my little cousin to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he said no because this kid, my little cousin, he's actually very special. He's very good with picking up on energy and reading people, even at the age of 3 and 4. It's like he creeped a lot of adults out as well. But anyway, he said no, and I stood behind him and reinforced it. I said, I'll take him to the bathroom. You don't need to be over here. Because he just the dude was just weird, you know, in the family. Even though the family finally excommunicated him, he should have been excommunicated earlier. Again, you got these weirdos, both male and females, these weirdos, these, you know, families that, like, what the fuck are you doing? Pastors, people in religion. You know, people forget that Malcolm X got killed, partially killed, because of defending little black girls. He got killed, Malcolm X, partially.
Yeah. They called him a liar and everything.
Of course, there's other reasons behind it, but Malcolm X got killed also.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to defend little girls.
Little girls who was 14.
Little black girls.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And people keep talking about this thing about R. Kelly made great music. The classical composer Stravinsky made great music. Joseph Boulogne, referred to as the Black Mozart, made great music. There's so many other people you can really listen to. I mean, that's no excuse for excusing a pedophile because you felt this person made great music. They're not the only one who made great music.
Caller, name and where you're from.
What's up, y'all? It's LB.
Yo, what's up?
Nothing. Now, remember that conversation we had a few weeks ago about this? And I told you, like, and I knew something like this was going to come up eventually, but I didn't know it was going to be R. Kelly again. But all I was saying was, from what pretty much I understand where y'all coming from now, because my point of view, I personally don't know that many pedophiles. Y'all do. I feel like everybody y'all know is one. Like, damn, man. I'm like, how many people they know that's like this? I only know, like, maybe, like, a few. Maybe, like, one or three.
You saying we hang out? Are you saying we hanging out with pedophiles?
Yeah, what do you mean by no?
Yeah, like we cool with pedophiles.
No,
like, what are you saying?
No,
Player,
I'm
come
saying,
on.
I'm saying, like, what, in your family or just people that's just been around you? Like, goddamn, like.
Well, that should tell you how prevalent it is, player.
Pedophiles are everywhere.
They're everywhere.
They're in the church. It's in your Bible. It's in your Quran. They're everywhere. Like, what are we talking about here?
They're in Wakanda.
They're in Sudan. They're in Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, child pornography is over $1 billion industry. So.
What we saying? What we talking about?
No, I'm just pretty much just saying that because I don't know that many that personally. I didn't have like that type of energy around me. That's like I was just trying to understand like where you was coming from with that other conversation that we had like, about the younger girls. Like
you don't have to have that energy around you when you're walking around and there's strangers coming up to you or people you don't hang out with that do weird stuff and they get caught. That's not people you know. That's people who came out and showed themselves to be who they are. Pedophiles. It could be. Like, again, it's over $1 billion industry. You have young girls in Russia being exposed in child prostitution. You have it in Indonesia. You have it in China. You have it in the U.S. You have it in the Sudan. You have it in Nigeria.
So
you have it in Mexico. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So LB, so are you familiar? You know all the activities of everybody that you've crossed paths with at the stores, at your job.
Well,
you know
I hung around with gangsters. So
how do you
mean if shit like that was around me, we was getting the strap.
You hang around gangsters. Do you know So you know gangsters also do trafficking, right?
Yeah, and child pornography is also really big in New York,
especially out of the New York area, because you're from New York, right?
Some Italian mobs.
Well, the gangsters I'm around ain't
what are we talking about? You said
I'm background check people like that.
You said I hang around with gangsters. Prince, I hang around with gangsters. We get the strap. Also, gangsters are involved in child pornography. They traffic. Russian gangsters traffic. Black gangsters traffic. Mexican gangsters traffic. What are you talking about, LB? Are you the head of the gang operation or not? Because you're incriminating yourself as well, if you know.
There are only a few organizations.
Nah, this is old shit. Not really.
Like
I'm just saying, like
there are only a few
people who came out that was like that. Usually they will get taken care of.
No, they don't.
They try some stupid shit like that.
No. That's only when it happens.
My people do. Like people I knew did, but I'm just saying, like that's why I never really had that type of shit around me.
That only happens to people's biases. Like if they're in a gang and someone comes after their sister, they're like hands off. But there are a lot of them that are still trafficking young girls, and there's only a few gang organizations that don't deal in child pornography. or prostitution. They're actually a good majority of them have child traffickers, whether it's 15-year-old girls, 14-year-old girls, 13-year-old girls. And then there's also those that also extends it to child pornography. It's over $1 billion industry. It's not over $1 billion by accident.
But this is the problem that I also have. Like, since like this documentary came out, pretty much I saw through like all the bullshit. Y'all knew he was a fucking creep. Y'all should have took care of it 20 years, like whatever, how many years ago.
Yeah, that's what he
y'all
said.
Y'all was still making money off of him, so y'all wasn't gonna do anything. But since y'all not anymore, now y'all want to do something. Fuck out of here. That's what I knew was like some bullshit.
It doesn't matter as long as he get caught, and those people should be shown as well. And they did show their face. So if people want to be serious about this, they can also do something there for people who are complicit in helping R. Kelly. But whether it's about money or not, people need to be exposed.
You know what, LB? You said something
But
interesting.
what's gonna
LB,
happen, though?
LB.
That's the issue.
Hold on,
What's gonna
LB. LB, wait a minute now. You said it yourself. You said, I'm a gangster. That's what you said. I run with gangsters. You got to understand, LB. Like right now, let me tell you something. You got BOP out of Detroit. Some brothers on patrol who actually protect and patrol the community. Those gangsters you're talking about, like, let me say something with you. Are they patrolling the city streets of New York? Yes or no?
I told you it was old shit.
No. You said it.
But
it ain't about incriminating yourself. These gangsters, are they protecting the community?
If they still around,
come on,
I have
LB.
no idea.
Wait a minute, hold on, LB. Wait a minute, no, because I want to illustrate a point. So this is the thing that we get a misconception about manhood. There's brothers every day patrolling the streets of Compton, patrolling the streets of Atlanta, patrolling the streets of Detroit that are not gangsters, but they out there.
But I also
they out there being mentors to little children as well. You ain't got to be no gangsters, like I told you before. We toss this word gangster around all through rap music, all in our lexicon, but there's a lot of gangsters and gang bangers. There's a difference between a gangster and a gang banger who are heavily involved in the trafficking of young boys and especially young black girls. So when you toss this word around, you got to clarify what you mean, LB. Are these people patrolling the streets in your community?
And if you don't know, then you don't know if they're a pedophile either. I mean, let's be honest. If you don't know about that, then you don't know who's a pedophile and who's not. Like,
no, what I said
you
was
don't know that.
They will take care of that if they ever did something to somebody they was related to or something like that. If it comes up, they're not patrolling around the street. Like, let's be serious.
So wait a minute, hold on.
You said you didn't know.
You don't know about it until after.
Hold on, LB. So wait a minute. So let me get this straight. They only going to put hands on somebody if somebody put hands on somebody they know, but not none of the little girls in the community that
they're
don't know.
They're not patrolling the street, nigga.
You said gangsters.
They're not patrolling the streets everywhere they go.
You told me. You told me. You said I go gangsters. You got gangsters. You said gangster. Come on, MOP. You the one that said gangsters. I did it. But I'm telling you how it goes.
I said I used to run with the gang. I used to know the gangsters around the, like, that's like in my, I'm from like Northside Jamaica, Queens. So if there was that type of energy around, which there really wasn't, not around me like that. Not at all.
LB.
You'll see that one guy that's on the news, like, this man is on the loose, all that bullshit.
LB.
I didn't really see it that much, but if you did, I didn't really know. I didn't know that person.
LB.
If I did hear about it, I didn't know that he was in the neighborhood, but I didn't know him.
LB, your niggas watch Vlad TV.
Yeah, I mean.
Yo, you ain't got no gangsters. You ain't got no gangsters. This ain't Bumpy Johnson. This ain't the queen, the queen of Harlem. This ain't the niggas that was checking Luxy Luciano for trying to move in on Harlem. Stop playing with us, LB. Come on now. Let's just be real. Let's keep it above.
I do know those guys, too, that had connections, but I'm not saying none of that type of shit.
Bro, look, let me tell you something.
That's involved with shit that you talked about already. But I'm just saying, like,
come on, LB. What we talking about, LB? What we talking about? Are we talking about
That's
a community?
all I'm saying.
Are we talking about a community of men that are getting shit done, or we talking about niggas that are bragging about shooting niggas or trying to scare other niggas?
Or selling meth or dope.
What we talking about?
I don't know what they gonna do, and I ain't gonna say nothing that they did do anything.
LB,
All I'm saying is that it got taken care of.
Pause, LB. I got your ass. You said you wouldn't snitch no matter what they do. That's what you just said. So it could be anything. Because like we said, some gangs move with child pornography and young girls too. We just had somebody up in New York right now that's being accused.
I don't know that person.
I'm not saying you know that person. But there's somebody right now being accused of sex trafficking young girls in New York. So that means if you wouldn't tell about their dirty secrets,
come on,
that means it could include that too. So let's not act like we know what everybody does.
Come on, Dipset. What we talking about? What we talking about? Come on, LB. Come on, LB. I know you're smarter now.
I don't know what y'all talking about. It don't have nothing to do with me.
You brought gangster.
If it had something to do with me, then that would have been a problem.
Hey, let me tell you something, LB.
It doesn't have nothing to do with me.
Gangsters can be paid off.
Whole shit is a cash grab anyway, because nothing's going to happen regardless how. You could be 1 to 200,000 documentaries to come out. Ain't nothing going to happen because it's too fucking late. Because all the girls that he deal with now is of age now.
No, he's still dealing with underage girls.
There's nothing you can really do about it.
They still don't. No. He's still dealing with underage girls. There still could be more evidence outside the 121 child pornography videos that were discovered but wasn't used in court because they obtained them illegally, although people was watching it in the streets. So no, there actually are young girls right now, and he still can get caught.
Okay. And
that's why the docuseries is out, because the first time he got caught, and even though people saw his rusty, dusty ass face on video, they still try to defend him because the whole black man bullshit narrative that they spun. This docuseries is to showcase people. It's not no white boogeyman that's trying to come after him. It's none of those things. The guy has acquired a lot of power over time because of his fame. The docuseries showed that for those who may not know, the porno tapes, the pornography of 121 counts of him being with underage girls are true. That's why the docuseries is out there, to warn people and to also let other parents know that now you can't say you didn't know R. Kelly was a child rapist, because he is.
They still gonna do that. The best way to get him, pretty much, because this is the one thing I'll say about R. Kelly.
What we gonna say about R. Kelly?
He got great music, but the nigga is a sicko. But one thing I will say, this is not the legs underneath him. Pretty much get the people that's been protecting him all this time, that's been getting them acquitted and all this type of other shit. Nobody don't know their names really. They just put some people out there in the front. No, get the people that's really
actually
behind
not
them.
True. In the docuseries, it showed the people who were protecting him. If people watch part 1,
they didn't show everybody.
No,
I want to see like the real people that's getting the job done.
They did. They show bodyguards who assisted him. They show parents. They're showing a lot of people. They even showed a lot of people already in the first 2 episodes. Even the part of his team who forged the marriage license between him and Aaliyah. So they're showing people who assisted him and who was complicit too.
Let's be honest here. You think anything's gonna happen to them?
A lot of stuff could happen to them, actually. That's what the docuseries is, to motivate people.
It's to motivate people. What I asked you is to motivate. You think something will happen?
Yes, I think something will happen. Actually,
you know what I think is going to happen,
because the
LB?
person behind it is smart.
You know what I think is going to happen, LB? I think some gangsters are going to get him.
Well, that's not gonna.
You hear me,
no,
LB?
That's not gonna happen.
Remember the gangsters. Gangsters don't mean shit today. If Chris Brown can buy his way into a gang, it means nothing today.
If George Zimmerman can walk around free, it doesn't mean nothing.
It means nothing today. But I think some gangsters are going to get him. LB, you
said he live in Chicago, and is fucking ruthless, and shit still happens. And they gunning each other down like a motherfucker. I don't want to hear that bullshit.
LB, what are you talking about? Are you gonna send your gangs to Chicago to clean it up? You said it yourself, gangster.
Are you gonna send yours?
You said it yourself, gangster. You said I run with gangsters.
Are you gonna send yours?
LB,
we don't.
That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Ain't shit gonna happen. You knowing it.
We don't run with.
If you really feel that way, like, come on, like,
seems
okay,
like you ready.
Kevin Spacey, you got like all these dudes that's out here. Harvey Weinstein, this shit gonna happen.
Why are we bringing up Harvey
Weinstein? Y'all trying.
Hey, but you know
Harvey Weinstein is going to be in trial. He already lost his company.
You know what, LB?
Somebody else owns his company now.
Real talk player. Let me tell you something.
Come on,
homie. Like, come on, player. That's a real weak approach. Ain't nothing gonna happen. We might as well not even stand up. There ain't no point in even fighting back. That's what you sounding like, Play.
Never said that.
I don't
you
know what
said
to.
That.
No, you just said ain't nothing gonna
happen.
happen.
The only thing that's gonna happen, that motherfuckers that was in that documentary, their pockets gonna get fatter.
You said nothing gonna happen. You said nothing gonna happen, LB. Come on, player.
Nothing gonna happen. You gonna do something else.
Nothing gonna happen.
Nothing
gonna happen. Do people stand up? Do people fight back? Does this give people motivation to do the right things? Does people getting checked or not? Because I know there's a lot of defeatism going on online. And I know people like to check out, especially some of us brothers.
Man, they just memeing that nigga. That's all they getting. They just getting their views on clout chasing. Like, let's go. Like, let's talk about it.
No, they're not, because you don't even know who's behind it. Oh, wait, first of all, how are you going to say someone clout chasing and you haven't even done research on who's behind the film? The docuseries. Like, you can't say that. Dream Hampton has been pretending a hip-hop critic for decades. She even called out her own fucking friends in the celebrity world. People are bringing down, talking about Jay-Z right now. And she wrote for his book. She talked about Questlove, and he commented back to her on Twitter. You can't say somebody's clout chasing. You don't even know their history and did research on them and know what they're about.
Rape victims are clout chasing.
I'm not even talking about them.
You just
I'm
said
talking
it.
about, like, if you talking about public opinion, all they doing is just memeing that nigga. That's all they doing.
You said rape victims are clout chasing. Come on, LB. You got a gangster.
This is not Amber Rose making a docuseries on what took place here. This is someone who's been a critic.
And what's even more funny, I'm hearing this more from fucking women than men. That's even more fun.
It's black women who've been critics about rape culture, misogyny, and stuff like that for decades. They have the resume. They wrote in the Source magazine. Like, these are not Amber Rose, Kim Kardashian women who are clout chasing to talk about R. Kelly. These are women who've been vocal for a very long time. Their resume already shows that they're the real deal.
Okay. But like what I've been saying before, you thinking they gonna get the job done?
Yes.
That's all.
Yes,
I've
because
pretty
this
much
is the
been
same.
asking the whole time.
Dream Hampton is the same woman that hooked up with Ultraviolet and got Rick Ross Reebok deal canceled. Just like Nelly, just like Nelly for the You Ain't Even Know It rape lyrics. There are a lot of people who are becoming smart that you gain power by going after people's sponsors and also companies. You don't go and just talk about the person themselves. You also got to do the background work. So yeah, something will take place. And a lot of women are becoming.
I don't think so.
Women are
still gonna be at his shows, wiping his tongue and all that other shit that they've been doing.
Yeah.
I put money on that.
Okay, sure. So a lot of women are becoming smarter, which is why a lot of people are getting in trouble, which is why a lot of people are getting scared right now. Russell Simmons scared right now, flew off to another country. A lot of people are shook because other people are becoming smarter. Who gives a fuck about Russell Simmons or R. Kelly? They're not the real big fish. When you know to go after people's sponsors and how they make money and their supporters, that's where the power lies. So,
and he was another one when I think about it, Russell Simmons. A lot of people ignore the fact that he was with Kamara underage too.
Yes,
a lot
he
of people
was.
get that.
He was with her underage.
And they choose to ignore that too. So that's why I'm like, I don't know why they got a hard on for R. Kelly, even though like we literally see him do shit.
They're not ignoring it right now. R. Kelly is the one actually caught on tape pissing in little girls' mouths. Other people, they got to do a little bit more work. You got to do more work with Russell Simmons, which is being done right now, which is why he's scared. R. Kelly is the only one out of the bunch. His dusty face was on 121 videos having sex with underage girls. The other ones are going to be a little bit more harder to do, but they could be done too.
And realistically, LB, let's be honest about this player. They've done enough for R. Kelly. They've done enough damage. R. Kelly is a shell of himself as a performer. His money has been affected. That's why he cried.
A lot, yes.
That's why he's cried for 18 minutes on the record. He talked about it. His tours have been canceled all over the country. They have fucked up his shit. So something has been done. His money has been fucked up.
So now the promoters are following pursuit for this, shit now?
Dog, don't nobody
Because
care
you know
about
before
them.
they wasn't giving a fuck.
Yeah, but you know what now? They fucking his shit up. His shit is all wrecked. His vehicle is all cracked. R. Kelly is cooked, homie. 10 years ago, this was not the case. LB, you got good sense. You know this nigga has dwindled in the cultural public eye.
Yeah, I know. I seen the tape. I seen the tape when I was like 11, 12 years old. I seen the tape. Grown-ass men played that fucking shit in the barbershop. I remember that shit. Yeah, that shit was fucking great.
You can't say that nothing has been done. They have fucked R. Kelly's shit up. His shit has been fucked up.
I'll say this. In the social media era where everything moves fast, we can only prove that in time because, you know, niggas forget. Niggas don't even remember when he said, when you talking teenager, how old we talking? Like, niggas didn't even remember that. I've seen a lot of comments on that. I'm like,
but all of that has been collected
like a few years ago.
That was in a docuseries.
But all of that has been collected over time. Now people are going back and they realize everything that has been going on with this guy. Bro, don't no millennial nigga care about R. Kelly like that.
Only the old niggas care.
Ain't nobody jamming his shit. I ain't seen none of them bopping ass niggas twigging and shit to his music at movies and shit like that. I'm just saying. I'm gonna be honest with you, player. You know damn well, LB, and you old enough to remember, R. Kelly is nowhere near as big as he was 10 years ago, simply because people have been actively on that ass.
That nigga, what? When? Okay, so the tape happened, 2000? I had to been, like 10, 11. Okay, so they've been letting them get away with this for, damn, even before that, because Aaliyah and all that.
Yeah. Just like people allow
like
slavery.
30 years?
People have a lot of stuff, which is why you go after it in the public. When Selma happened and everyone, Dirty Sunday, when everyone saw Bloody Sunday, when everybody saw black people getting hurt actually on camera, people couldn't hide anymore. And then Martin Luther King was able to put more things in effect because of that. You catch the roaches, so the roaches don't have anywhere to hide anymore. Once you do that, you can damage them more. But while people are hiding in the shadows, you can't really do much to people if they're hiding. You got to catch them in the light.
And what's making it even more crazy, R. Kelly's about to sue them. Aaliyah's mom's about to sue them too.
And they're going to keep going. Jane Hampton said she's at war
I
with R. Kelly.
understand why Aaliyah's mom's doing it because, come on. It's like on the tour bus and all that shit. I'm like,
well, come on. Why you allowed your daughter to be on the tour?
that it happened, but it happened.
Yeah, so it don't matter what the mother said. You and the uncle allowed your daughter to get fucked, a child rapist. So they can sue all they want. Jane Hampton is ready for it. She says she's at war.
R. Kelly ain't gonna do nothing, LB.
Rapist.
R. Kelly got to sue his accountant for running in on that ass.
Oh, and also the other.
He got money issues.
Prince, remember his other legal team that left him?
Yeah, R. Kelly ain't gonna do shit.
And he broke. He's singing about, and I'm broke.
That nigga reaching up under the seat of his car with no pistol just to flex on niggas. R. Kelly ain't gonna do shit.
I'll put it like this. Like I've been saying about like the social media era, in time we'll know because people forget shit like in 2 weeks, and we'll see how they feel. I'll give it until February to see if like people gonna like switch up and think about the documentary and all that.
People have been talking about for R. Kelly for 3
people
months
be
now.
picking and choosing who to fuck with because it's easy. Because there's plenty of other sick niggas like R. Kelly that's running around the industry.
Then
They
tell
don't say a
them.
goddamn
Then
thing.
tell them. And first of all, one person can't do everybody by themselves. Why everybody always talk about like one person come out with a docuseries or talk about Bryan Singer and what's going on? Like they can catch everyone. More people have to get involved in. A couple people can't catch everybody. So I don't even know why people bring up that point. If people feel more people need to get caught right now, then they need to join in, and instead of being silent.
Hey, LB, R. Kelly done, player. I don't care how nobody flip it. Anybody flip it. R. Kelly done. He can't go platinum. That nigga can barely perform at concerts. They cancel his shows every other week. R. Kelly used to make his money strictly off touring because his singles were not on the chart anymore. Everything he was doing, he was performing for the past. That money with the hashtag Mute R. Kelly movement, that shit has fucked his money up, player. And this docuseries is the final nail in the coffin,
and he
man.
don't even own his popular music.
The nigga don't even own his publishings. He don't even own his publishings.
I wonder if remember when Kanye West, I think a few weeks ago, he said something about if he died tomorrow, then y'all gonna be celebrating him. I wonder if R. Kelly, that happened to R. Kelly, how would people? And I want to, cause and then they're just gonna expose themselves on their own, pretty much. Cause I want to see if R. Kelly died tomorrow, how I bet you people gonna be all that fake. They're just gonna. This shit's gonna be dead.
Let's ask people in the chat room. How would you feel if R. Kelly
called
tomorrow?
No.
Also, Prince.
No, not your
How
fans. Your fans be on that other shit. No.
You know what's gonna happen? Hold on,
LB.
LB,
Niggas in the industry.
I tell you what I'll be doing. I'll be crip walking.
How would you feel if he had a heart attack due to his herpes? How do you feel if he had a heart attack due to his herpes?
I'm gonna be crip walking on my lawn.
I won't care.
I'm gonna be like, damn, 12 Play's a classic, and TP2's a classic, and maybe TP3 somewhat. Like, goddamn, R. Kelly, he a sick nigga. He still had great music, but he's a sick nigga. And I'll just leave it at that. I'm not fully investing in a lot of shit like that.
We can see
niggas
that.
down the I'll be like, whatever.
We can see that. All right.
Go.
Go ahead, LB. You got it.
Peace out.
You got it, LB. Go ahead. All right, man.
Oh no, I'm just saying fast. A lot of people just being fake, politically correct and all that. I'm not saying y'all, but I'm just saying a lot of people just hopping on the train because it's hot right now.
Look.
I don't think anything is politically correct pertaining to children getting raped. Not all political correct shit is left to other
but
stuff.
A lot of people's fake Karen now. They've been bragging about this bullshit for like how many years now? Nobody gave a fuck.
I really don't care
but
about.
Now people care.
I don't even care
for
about
2 weeks. Just because they can make memes and views off that shit.
I don't really care about that fake Karen. As long as he gets what he deserves, it don't matter. Of course, a lot of people do stuff for themselves, but as long as a child rapist is off the streets, I'm good with that.
Here's the thing about it.
We'll find out in a month.
If he check it,
we'll find out in a month if people gonna move on to the next thing.
Bro, if he checks out of here, he'll just have a damaged legacy that some people may try to romanticize, and then you're gonna have people that are gonna be like, nah. Same thing that happened to Michael Jackson. Some people tried to overly romanticize Michael Jackson's legacy, and you had other people that they weren't having it. You see what I'm saying? And so it should be the same thing with R. Kelly. Of course, when people die, all of a sudden people become mystified and things like that. But nevertheless, those victims are still out there, and his legacy will always be in question.
Well, to be honest with you, though, those who have been caught on tape and different stuff like that, some of their legacies have been destroyed forever. You know.
They didn't like him enough. You know how this society is today. They don't like you enough.
Chuck Berry's legacy was destroyed when he found out that he was on watching videos of little girls peeing in the bathroom. So there are people's legacies that are destroyed. Like, he got too much. Like, no one saw Michael on video, even though he's a weirdo. And again, if people want to protest him too or whatever, fine, I don't give a fuck. But he was.
I can tell you a person that's just like R. Kelly, who's white and got the fuck about it here, the subway guy.
Yeah.
He does the same thing. He does the same thing that he's doing, but they got him the fuck out here because so the fuck was he's the subway guy.
No. Anybody who's caught on videotape and things like that, their legacy is destroyed. People who, you think they're guilty or there's something going on, but people can't see it with their own two eyes. They kind of wiggle and try to make excuses. But when someone's caught on tape and there's marriage documents, stuff like that, you just like with Chuck Berry with the videos, you can't wiggle your way out of that.
Age ain't nothing but a number. All
right, bye, LB. We got some more people calling in.
All right.
Caller, name me where you're from.
John,
what's up?
Hey, Princess is here. Salute to you both. Long time listener, first time caller. Glad to be on.
Glad to have you on.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, said glad to have you on. Go ahead.
Thank you. As far as all this R. Kelly foolishness, foolishness in terms of his actions, I'm glad to see it really starting to come to light. And I additionally salute y'all for really bringing balance to both sides of the equation in terms of holding not only the men accountable, but also some of the women that have facilitated, this predatory behavior. And And it really is high time we all take time to check ourselves in our diets in terms of what we put in our minds and who we co-sign and take the veil off of celebrity in terms of them being the examples, and just begin to take them at face value and take the time out to hold them accountable, because it's really, really crucial that we just move beyond this level of idolatry that we've been in largely for the last 2 decades at least in terms of our lifetimes.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely correct, because realistically, and I'm glad you called in, and we definitely appreciate you listening to us for all this time. But it is something that you cannot just be a passive consumer. You have to be an active listener. You have to be an observer. And I'm just speaking for myself. I know Sin can attest to the same thing with herself. You're always having to reevaluate the people you're supporting, because you know how it is, man. You're like, man, I'm rocking with this person. And you start seeing some funny stuff, and you're like, well, what is that about? So yes, absolutely. We agree 100%. Which is why, for me personally, there's a lot of stuff I've backed off of listening to because of certain things, the way people are carrying themselves. And I just don't feel like having that energy going into my mental and spiritual diet as well. So what you're speaking on is absolutely the truth.
Facts, man. I want to share a quick story as a Howard alum, and a quick aside. For instance, I sent y'all an email a while ago about the hip-hop history, so I'll give you an update on that as soon as I can. But halfway through my college experience at Howard's homecoming, this particular homecoming had excuse me, Trick Daddy as one of the artists. And at the end of his performance, I'll never forget it as long as I live. He literally said this, and he said it 3 times in a row: "Kill that baby ain't mine. Kill that baby ain't mine. Kill that baby ain't mine." And I froze where I was. And, back in the day in 98, 99, Take It to the House and Trina, and that. And, but it's right then and there, I was just like, no, can't do it anymore. It's just the toxicity of that statement, was really, really an eye opener. Because it wasn't necessary. It was just really a juvenile statement, but really spoke a lot in terms of his mind was at, and what he obviously felt he could
get away with. Well, what? Real quick, you're absolutely right, because a testament to what you're stating here as well. Growing up in the South. I was one of the little boys that, all the older people was playing Trick Daddy, and I was a fan of his music because Trick Daddy got a lot of marching band type of instrumentals, like Take It to the House,
Absolutely.
Slip and Slide. And you know how it was being at the prep rallies, being at the games. They used to play it. But as you got older, as I got older, I started looking at him like some of the crazy shit he was saying. I know what you're talking about when he kept saying, "Kill that baby ain't mine." Like, that's when I started backing off of his music. All I like, yo, this dude was crazy. But everybody, because he, he got some, Earth, Wind and Fire samples. He got some New Orleans jazz in there as well. He got some Florida, Miami bass music in his shit, and they keep the club knocking. People excused a lot of his behavior, but Trick Daddy had been cutting up a long time. That's why we see him cutting up on the air right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
definitely. Definitely.
That's being a responsible listener. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you got to go ahead.
I want to go back to kind of, I know y'all covered a bit of Jasmine Barnes today, and then some of, I listen to every episode y'all come out with it. The young lady from McDonald's yesterday, on my timeline, I've hosted the status, and it just really kind of went left with some of the people that commented on it. But I posted, I wonder what was going through those young men's minds in that video. And I say that because I certainly have heard a lot of women say, particularly black women say, see, this is why black men are X, Y, Z, and where we're not protected, and the like. But my kind of the converse of it, what I was thinking in terms of just the additional data that I come across now, and having also been profiled and arrested my senior year at Howard 2 months before graduation, as I was riding my bike literally down the street to a jazz club, is the kind of the realities of the prison industrial complex, et cetera, et cetera. And so in terms of that always being a reality for black people, but I would say particularly black men, given the fact that there are more black men jailed in America than all the women around the world globally. I wondered what was going through those young men's minds. Were they, did they want to hop in, and then decided not to? Did they not like the young woman and decided to kind of let her have it? Or,
but you know what?
Go ahead.
Real quick. I mean, that part I've seen. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, the reason why I always. My thing is this. Look, the sister was already swinging and she was handling her business. I know for me personally, if I'm there and I've been in situations where I've had to do that, my reaction is a little bit quicker and snappier. You know what I'm saying? Oh shit, you snatching somebody up, especially, a black woman, you snatching her up. So, just standing there's a delayed reaction. But then on top of it though, I understand the fear of the prison industrial complex. But brother, how many times we've seen dudes, especially black men, quick to put hands on each other, though? You see what I'm saying? Because
for sure.
Yeah, I've seen that even.
Now, to be clear, I would have been over the counter. I'm just built like that, and at 6'2", 300, not too many people are going to try with me in the first place. But I have been punched by a black woman actually twice the last 2 years, and did not raise a hand. But even as both of those situations happened, my thought was like, let me remove myself from this situation like ASAP, because in one situation was with my ex-wife, and I just literally just put my hands up, didn't put my hands on her, but my in the back of my mind is like, I just hope this ends soon, because I do not want the police coming here. This will not end well for me.
Well, what I would say in that situation, I think that men need to be comfortable with pressing charges against women who physically assault them, because if you fight back, you're going to lose. And if you don't say anything, a lot of times you're going to lose too. So I think you need to document the fact that the person, that she's someone who's violent. So if anything happens again, or she may lie in the future, you won't be in trouble because it's already in the system that she assaulted you before. The second thing I think that's an issue for black people is the same issue for reparations. There's not enough emphasis on black lawyers. In the 20th century, early in the 20th century, there used to be an emphasis on black lawyers fighting against the prison industrial system, black lawyers fighting legality in favor of black people pertaining to economics. We saw that work out in some cases where we saw a thriving black communities. The problem that we have here right now, we have an individual bias. So you'll have the black community who really wanted to defend R. Kelly, for example, when the videos and those tapes came out, just because he was a black man, instead of having his ass get thrown into prison. Meanwhile, what you should have done as a community is really, really build on organizations that are about black lawyers to actually defend black men like Khalif Browder. We lost that goal and we lost that focus, which is why there's so much of a confusion going on right now. Disorganization and fear. Black men and women actually have a lot of power. Like you see, for example, with Starbucks, it's very simple. They were afraid to lose their sponsorships. They apologize and they go and say, we're going to revamp our policies. Black people do have a lot of power in moments when they use it. Even when they get racist white people fired from their job, is the fact that we're fighting against each other. We're confused. There's no organization. You have people wasting time defending R. Kelly instead of just putting him in prison, or at the very least making sure that his sponsorships are
dried up.
Dried up. Which I will say there are people who have done a good job on that. Actually, even despite the minority in our
which is why
community.
He cried for 18 minutes on the song.
Yeah, even though you have some in our even though you have some in our community that still defends him, at least you had a good portion of us that did freeze his assets so he can't be making money that easily. But it's very, very important for black people to understand when it comes to local politics and then also federal, and also when it comes to the police state, you'll only get things done in your favor if you have black lawyers and also have local politicians placed there by the people. If you don't do that 1-2 punch, you're going to lose. Like them Scott Sparrow boys, for example, they would have went to prison, especially for the false rape against those 2 white women. They would have gone to prison for life if it wasn't an organization of black lawyers that got them out.
Right.
So it's very important for people to notice that as a black community, you need black lawyers and you need to focus on local politics.
Also, real quick, caller, to your original question, when you was talking about, the idea of the delayed reaction with those brothers in that video, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of brothers that are hesitant to make a decision when it comes to the physicality in the public space because of how easily it is to prosecute them. On average, most black people, especially black men, go to jail for assault on an officer. I've seen brothers fall against an officer when an officer has shoved them and they've been arrested and charged with assault. That is the number one thing that they'll peg, especially a black man, down for, is assault. There was a situation where a brother bled on a cop's uniform as they was beating him mercilessly, that they charged him for assault. I've seen people in situations where officers have scratched themselves when they've tried to choke out a black man and they charged that black man with assault. So that's why to some of the sisters that are listening, you get that initial delayed reaction because there has been a pecking order generationally with black men, particularly with black masculinity. What I will advise most black men in the public sector, in the public space, when you see atrocities, use wisdom. Even if those brothers would have reacted, they still would have been in the right because that white man, he started the assault. He charged and grabbed that woman. At that point, anything else would have been in defense of her.
You see what I'm saying? There was the videotape. And also another thing you got to remember, cops can show their bias against black men, especially when there's no visual data. You got to have either witnesses on your side or data, because if it's just a one-on-one situation, a lot of times they are going to
they're going to lie,
side with the officer who lied
all the time,
or the white individual.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, because I remember being on the train in Fort Worth. I had a cop unstrap his gun and said, "I will turn you to an Oscar Grant too," and it was just me and him. No witnesses.
Oh, yeah, man.
And so these things are very true, which is why there is a delayed reaction sometimes in situations like that. But anything those brothers would have done in defense of that black woman, everything would have been on camera, so they would have been in the right.
Also, to go back to R. Kelly real quick for Dennis Conner, no, I do believe in public humiliation. There's no one who should quietly send the evidence against R. Kelly. No. When Ida B. Wells, the reason why in one state she was able to stop lynchings for 50 years because she went and embarrassed the United States and Europe and did a whole campaign and to publicly ruin even their pockets as well for that state, pertaining to some dealings they were doing over in Europe. So no, you publicly humiliate somebody who's doing wrong. You don't quietly just go to the judicial system or anything. You make noise.
Yeah. So again, caller, you bring up some excellent points, and that's actually a conversation. More than likely going to bring up during another episode of No Simp Zone with the likes of Open Man and some other brothers as well.
I got to get on No Simp Zone, friends. Yeah. I'm itching to be on, man.
I know. But yeah, we're going to line it up, man. But it is, it's something that we can definitely talk about, because that is why you get a delayed reaction because of how easy it is to prosecute black people, period, and especially black men, especially when there's no evidence on their behalf to help them justify their actions. You know what I'm saying? So that does happen a lot.
Yeah, man. I'm from Wylie, Texas, born and raised, and so I know what you mean. I know you moved around and been in Texas for a bit, so I know what you're saying, man. And Sin, to your point, there, just real quick, y'all. There's an idea I've had for about 2.5 years now, and just to sum it up very quickly, it'll basically be kind of a framework of where there are older lawyers and then a contingent of younger lawyers who learn underneath him, and they would be somewhat of a collective that would address a lot of these different police brutality and other discrimination cases, and their retainer would be a bit higher than the normal lawyer because they'd work kind of off of that basis. But the significant portion of those judgments would go back into the organization and being able to advocate for those who, do not have, the money to try their case. When I was arrested, again, 2 months right before graduation, my lawyer was $2,000, and the only reason it was $2,000 is because my grandmother used to be the registrar at Howard Law School and knew, a lot of the students, and the lawyer gave me half off. But that would have been $4,000 to win where the case was, and they charged me with carrying a concealed deadly weapon. I had a knife and a fork in my backpack. But the case was literally 15 minutes. All I said was here, and they then gave the disposition of noye prosequi, means they're not going to prosecute. But then in the meanwhile, I spent all this money, had to stay in D.C., pay additional when I felt all I wanted to do after graduation was go back to Texas and rest before my next chapter in life. And, I know for a fact I missed out on $100K salary-wise because different jobs had seen that in the past, in the 10 years, right after that. So, it's as you said, it's huge that we really begin to place this emphasis on our black lawyers and begin to really get organized in that fashion and kind of move beyond the status quo. Salute to the NAACP and other organizations that have been there, but some of those have kind of lost their teeth along the way, and there's this new strategy that's needed in terms of being able to make a dent in this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The NAACP has lost its teeth completely. Even though most chapters are led by black people, most of them are like baby boomers. It's really up to the new generation now. They got to get in there. The new lawyers. It's like we need fresh blood. It's like it's too many. And no offense, of course, no offense to older people. It's just that they've had their fight. And let's be honest, once people reach a certain age, they're fucking tired. Probably want to chill out somewhere. So you're going to have to pick up the fight where they left off.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got so much wisdom from the elders, but in that wisdom is our foundation, but or needs to be our foundation, but it's our foundation as we move forward into the leadership position. So from Congress to your local alderman to your local city council, there's definitely a need for new blood, new ideas, new energy. And bringing that in conjunction and cooperation with some of that older wisdom can really lead to some powerful results.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Love the call. Very nuanced call. You brought up a lot of great talking points. And again, man, we definitely appreciate you all the way from Texas. And yes, we'll be having a No Simp Zone. Everybody stay posted, and we'll be letting you know when, and we'll have this further conversation into the
Sounds
psychology.
good.
You know what I'm saying? So take care, King, all right?
Yeah, one of the best calls
Appreciate
of tonight.
it. Salute to y'all.
Peace.
Peace.
So we're going to keep the phone lines open a little bit longer. Don't get me wrong. I think the LB call kind of exhausted me a little bit. But anyway, give the call. The number is 281-899-0392. Again, the number is 281-899-0392. Call in. If you want to talk about this subject, call in. Give us your thoughts. We are here. We are open. Like we said, thought crimes don't hide behind anything or anyone. It's actually about real conversations with real people. So, again, the number is 281-899-0392. And you can call in and give us your thoughts.
Absolutely. Just like Beanie Siegel says, I'm a real nigga. Whatever that is. But again, the lines are open, folks. If you would like to speak on what had taken place with Surviving R. Kelly Part 1 and 2, we gave our review, we shared our opinions and our thoughts on it, and also what that means for the culture, the counterculture, we critiqued that as well, and also what happened, unfortunately, with the likes of 7-year-old Jasmine, who was gunned down in the situation on the traffic streets as well. You had that opportunity to call in and share your thoughts on those subjects. Caller, you're now live with Thought Crimes. What is on your mind?
Hey, this is the Crazy Graham. You might remember me from last podcast from Montgomery, New York. I watched the documentary last night, and I have to say everybody dropped the ball. And I'm not talking about the victim. I'm talking about the ones who worked with him. Mm-hmm. And it was just crazy. I wasn't planning on watching it. At the first place, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to watch it. But after watching those both ones, I was just completely disgusted. I wasn't nearly entertained, nor like looking for tea. I was just looking like, are y'all serious? Like, why? It just like, I couldn't even form the opinion because I was just so disgusted by how everybody noticed clues as to what was going on. And they just like, okay, it's nothing.
That's
but
why
I'm glad that it's coming out now that he's alive. Because had God forbid something happened to R. Kelly, the documentary would have been meaningless to the point that like nobody would even care. So I'm glad that they're actually doing it to the point where they have a chance to actually for people from to take responsibility. But it was just so disgusting. And Sparkle for real?
That's
like,
what I was saying,
like,
man. I was looking at Sparkle like, come on, girl.
Like, you saw this man's action, and yet you let your niece hang around with him. Even after you saw her alone with him, you just be like, okay, I thought he was in good hands. He was not in good hands. You should have took her out immediately and said, listen, we ain't fucking with him no more. That's it. But you just decided to allow her to keep it in his presence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like,
that's the thing.
It was
man.
disgusting.
It's like you said, everybody was complicit, man.
And everybody tried to play down their guilt.
And that's why like that rape culture thing exists, because people don't understand, man. You go anywhere. In Russia, young girls being fucked is okay. You go to India, they're selling off their daughters. You go to Sudan, you got fucking child brides as well. You in the U.S., no one thinks to call the cops on some old-ass dude in the parking lot waiting for a high school girl. And let me tell you something, too. There are some YouTubers, the reason why they're either quiet on R. Kelly or kind of subversive of trying to defend him, because some of them may have met their wife in high school when they were a grown man. Some of them may have picked her up when she was 15. Some of them may not be married but keep messing around with teenage girls. That's why you got a lot of people trying to be slick.
Right, and the next thing that was annoying the fuck out of me throughout the entire documentary is the fact that it was revealed that he couldn't read and write, but it kept saying he's a genius. And I was confused, like, well, if he couldn't read and write, how was he able to compose it in words? I understand that he was able to come together with production sound-wise, but as far as words, like, did he have a ghostwriter? I was a bit confused with that, but it kept saying that he's a genius, like he's some fucking Houdini that was able to make a song and able to make a song. So I was just a bit confused with that. People kept quoting about the word genius throughout the entire, like, as if, like, you're upset with this man, but yet you're mesmerized with him at the same time. So I'm confused. Are you outraged by his actions, or are you still, to this day, mesmerized by his status and who he was and how he was able to achieve so much success?
I like that. I like how the docuseries did that, though, to be honest with you, because it shows how people think. You know, it's like you and I, and also the director. The director said she don't give a fuck about him being a genius. She don't consider him a genius. So you know, but she wanted to showcase, how people viewed R. Kelly. But as an artist myself, I will say one thing. I'm not going to dissect him being a genius or not, because I don't want to really talk about him in that way, because he's a child rapist. But you have had people in history, even if they couldn't read or write, who've been considered geniuses because they were able to excel in other ways. Whether people consider them, because, for example, Einstein had some learning disabilities. Also, Whoopi Goldberg had some learning disabilities. But these people were still able to excel in other areas. Like, there's some people who don't even like language arts, but they may be, like, top notch in mathematics. There's some people who don't, they really can't figure out math. It don't matter how much somebody tries to show them, they can't get it. But they may be a great linguistic. So
to be honest with you, it's like when Beethoven lost his hearing, he composed some of his best musicals, his best pieces. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I think Dream Hampton intentionally let people keep going back because they kept really harping on his celebrity, his craft, and passively excusing a lot of things. And another thing about it too, yes, he could not read or write, which is why those contracts were on his ass. That's why he doesn't own any of his material. Couldn't read the damn contracts. He was just signing shit.
Right, and the manager too. The manager who actually forged the papers for Aaliyah and match with Aaliyah. What disturbed me is when he talked about it, there was a smile on his face.
Yeah,
as if like, why are you laughing about something that is a crime? That's like more of a conspiracy, and in that way, like when he was talking about, it, he was smiling, and there was a little chuckle in it, as if like he enjoyed the idea of committing a crime by forging a paperwork and lying about a girl's age. Like, that really pissed me, that really upsetted me. Like, are you serious? Like, were you really laughing about a crime that you had just committed? I guess statute of limitations is out the window right now because the 20 years has gone by. But still, like, you did this. But still, you did something that could have put you in jail from the start.
Oh yeah, that's why for example, R. Kelly's trying to hold on to them girls he have right now because. Them girls who are being held as alleged sex slaves, if they come out, he could be brought to court, and that could be game over. So, that's why he's trying to lawyer up. He's very scared. He's trying to make sure nobody get in contact with their family and stuff like that. So he knows that one more false step. That's it. Go ahead.
And I thought it was a funny move and what's I was telling my mom this, how I like the fact that Lifetime stuck to their guns even when he tried to threaten to sue. They're like, no, we're releasing the documents. Because I really felt like, it's funny how BET quickly folded with that interview with that guy, Tory, how they quickly folded and never really aired out the interview again. Because I remember watching at that time, but I was only like 10 years old when it first came out, so I couldn't really grasp how big it was, but looking at it now and watching it again, and the answers that he had, it was like, wow, how could that answer not have passed him by? The fact that you asked, well, when you talk about teenage girls, how old we talking? What? Like, you don't know teenage girl? I get that 18, 19 is an adult, but you should know 13, 14, 15 is in that teenage area. So how do you ask that question? That should have been a clue. And I really, really felt like BT really dropped the ball themselves by not even continuously airing that interview over some lawsuit, even especially on grounds that to this day they never say what was the lawsuit for. Like, to this day, they never said what was the lawsuit for the interview was about.
Yeah, that was a time when R. Kelly had a little bit more power and pronouncement, and he was still coming off of the remixes of B2K. He was still having some remix hits here and there, the Ignition as well. But BET got some messed up history. I mean, you see what's going on with AJ Calloway, former BET host of 106 in Park, and they had two more women come out to accuse him of sexual assault, and even their former president, Stephen Hill, was accused by men of coming on to them sexually.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of shit that goes on with BET as well.
They have alleged accounts for BET, like Prince said, of other people misbehaving there. And
but
go ahead.
But I wonder was BET like independent? Because I know when they first came out, they were like real independent channel. I wonder were they still independent when that happened, or was Viacom in the role, or did Viacom already was in partnership with them when that interview took place?
They still had the last say so, and they still had ownership when they were doing that stuff.
Yeah, Bob Johnson.
Like when Tip Drill, for example, came out
for BET Uncut.
BET was still owned by him. So so they can't blame it on the white corporation. It was owned by them at that time.
Yeah, and they asked R. Kelly the question just to to highlight how ridiculous he is. That's why when they aired it, it's just what it was. And R. Kelly, I do remember, I know exactly what you're talking about, because at that time, R. Kelly was suing and having a lot of interviews pulled at the time.
Yeah. Well, that's just what I wanted to say. But just watch it. I'm gonna watch it again because I really want to see how the justice system really handled that child pornography. Because I think criminal justice. So I really want to see how the police and the lawyers really handled the situation. Again, I was a little young when all of this was going on. So watching this now, I really want to see how he was able to get off. I know they said that the girl, she backed up, said she wasn't in the video, but I feel like it has to be a lot more than just the girl. Something tells me that law enforcement and the lawyers probably dropped the ball with this case as well. It has to be deeper than just the girl just backed off and then the case was over. It has to be something more than that because because I'm sure the tapes was floating around So, and it should have been enough that tape, whether you recognize it was him or not, we know it's him, that should have been enough for the court to say, okay, he needs to go. But something is telling me just from hearing bits and pieces about how he was acquitted, that something deeper has happened. Somebody in that department must have backed off or, dropped the ball in certain areas of the case to where the case didn't go through, even for the lawyers. So I'm gonna watch the newer parts and see how that unfolds. But thank you guys for letting me call in. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of y'all. You guys really motivate me and really, just inspire me. And I really appreciate your content. And keep doing what y'all doing.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate you too. Peace.
Yeah. Also, by the way, folks, if you really want to get an in-depth, look into the whole situation with R. Kelly, there's a reporter you should follow who was actually, I believe, one of the first reporters publicly to break the story on R. Kelly and all his underage indiscretions was, I believe his name is Jim DeRogatis. I shared the name in the chat room. You can look him up and you can go back and read his articles, his in-depth interviews, and his research. At the time, I think he was one of the original reporters who broke the story on Aaliyah and R. Kelly being married quietly, because he was one of the first ones out there. So again, Jim DeRogatis, you can check out his information, and it goes back. His past goes back extensively covering this. Caller, you're now live with Thought Crimes. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Thought Crimes? This is Jonathan calling from St. Louis.
What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, how y'all doing? I just want to chime in. I'm just now kind of listening to it within the last 10 minutes, but y'all probably already went over this. This is just another big example of like how celebrities, especially in the music world, music can kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words or whatever you could say, cast spells over people sometimes, and they could just be so enamored by somebody's talent, especially when it comes to music, that it blinds them from a lot of stuff, not excusing the actions of all these people involved, but it's just another clear example of how celebrity just seems to blind people. It's almost like people got the blindfolds on like they in the Bird Box movie or something when it comes to issues like this.
Oh yeah, man. It happens all the time even with people who's considered charismatic in the church. Whether it's celebrity or non-celebrity, people drop the ball on this. Could be a teacher, could be a coach. We saw what happened at Penn State, where you had a whole community basically had this protest, and they had a riot because the coach got fired because he knew that Sandusky was having sex with little boys. So you have a lot of predators who just people choose their selfishness over children all the time. Also, thank you for calling. We also have Sonia Ross in here. Sonia Ross, what's up? What's up? What's up? Glad to have you on the line.
Oh, okay. I was like, what happened? Did I do something wrong? It's good to hear from you guys. I just, I was working. I know I'm catching it kind of late. I just wanted to make a comment about the R. Kelly. I did not watch it. I've been disgusted with R. Kelly for many, many years. I was telling my daughter last night when we were watching a show and somebody was talking about surviving R. Kelly, how when he first came out in the 90s, this is before I knew about the whole Aaliyah thing. I really was old enough to comprehend it. I went and saw him in the concert the first time. On one of his early concerts, like after he did 12 Play. It was good. I enjoyed myself. I went back the second time a couple of years later when he was in the D.C. area, and it was a complete sex show. It was really disgusting. I was absolutely horrified. Like, really, he had girls on the stage, and he was, like, simulating sex acts with them, and I was just so disgusted by the whole thing. And so when the whole business came out about him having the tape with the girl, and people were going back and forth talking about that's not him, the girl's lying, all this nonsense. I was just like, I knew 100% he had done that because I saw what he did in public. at that show. And it's so, and I remember I was mature enough to really understand what happened with Aaliyah and things like that. So personally, I cannot sit and watch Surviving R. Kelly because of the kind of work that I do. But when people are talking about, why these women coming forward now, well, two things. One thing is that a lot of times women really can't comprehend what happened to them when they're in their younger years. Their brain has to get to a certain development. They have to mature to a certain place to really understand what's going on. And sometimes they even have to have their own children to have that kind of protective vibe about them to understand what was done to them was really, really wrong, even if they were a teen or a young adult. And the second thing is when people were saying, oh, well, all these people just standing around, similar to what Sincere was just saying, people are inherently selfish. And there was times, even something real simple like me being in college and we were having an issue with a professor and nobody would say anything. They were like, oh, no, I'm not saying anything. You're not going to mess up my grade. Now, mind you, nobody's life was on the line. No, this wasn't even about money. This is about a grade, and they wouldn't speak up. So imagine if money is involved or people's reputation or job opportunities. It's about selfishness. They don't really care enough to take a stand to protect, vulnerable people.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that, Sonya Ross, and we're definitely happy that you called because it is the truth. People want to pass it off as the bystander effect. Whatever the case is, most individuals on some level primitively are inherently selfish, especially when you have the glitz and glamour of celebrity, if you're talking about status, wealth, riches, money, whatever the case is, as we saw. I know you say you didn't see, but as we saw within the docuseries about the parents just casually pawning their children off, the security guards standing around, the manager standing around,
picking up girls at the mall.
Yeah, and people assisting them going to the high schools, hanging out in cafeterias. Because look, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I know when I was younger, I saw older men come to our schools, our high schools, picking up young girls, and it was just like it's a cultural thing that quietly just goes on even to this day. Even though we have all of these people online speaking about it, doesn't necessarily change the fact that it's still going on right now.
And it is hard to watch, Sonya.
Yes.
Seeing the girls, now young women in many cases talk about what took place, seeing how the community didn't care. But the hardest part is actually the parents selling their kids off, but how the black community reacted towards R. Kelly. When you think about O.J. Simpson, you kind of understand how things could get muddled in that particular situation. But with the videotapes and a lot of them not caring and a party, it's kind of like the Sandusky thing, where like a lot of white people just didn't care at the time because the coach of Penn State was bringing so many awards and stuff to the school and to the team.
Money, status.
Yeah, that they were like, So when you see that, because you can always feel ignorant up until that point. Like, okay, maybe people don't know. Maybe there isn't a rape culture because, people don't know. But then when you see him be on trial and the videos be sold in the street and people watching it and stuff, it showcased that it is a rape culture.
It is, and it's a very degenerate culture, and it's similar to what you and Prince were saying before. It crosses all economic and racial lines. Similar to the Sandusky case, the man, what is his name, the football coach, Joe Paterno, he knew that the man had been raping children. He did nothing to stop it because he was worried about the financial machine that was the Penn State football team coming under. Same thing here. These people knew what he was doing. They knew that people were luring women for him, trying to entice them, and they did not care because they were getting a financial benefit. And it's sad to say, I see it in my office. People, their own parents don't care. With abuse in the home, so a lot of parents turn a blind eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you take that to a larger extent, why if your own parent is going to turn a blind eye, and I see that very, very often, how is it that strangers are going to speak up for you? This is just the world that we live in, and it was a very, very sad thing.
Yeah, and you're right about that in the Joey Paterno situation pertaining to Sandusky, Sonya Ross. I mean, I know, like you stated for your line of work, you kind of avoid certain things because of what you have to deal with in person. But I read a lot of the testimony, and I mean how descriptive they were and the things they heard that was going on with Sandusky and how he had a preference. He frequented especially young black boys. You know what I'm saying? He always kind of kept them hanging around and just children in general. And yes, when they had him in that situation, a lot of the kids, adults were rioting. They were complaining about it. And again, Penn State has a horrible history. Penn State University has a horrible reputation when it comes to sexual assault.
Yeah, it's really hard to even read that. When they talk about slapping the skin, I had to start reading. Like, that's the, I don't want it. Just,
Yeah.
You know, and even
Yeah,
with
I read that. That was awful. And that whole thing would have, when I remember reading that, and this was even before I went into the mental health field, I had to take a step back because I did, at least at this point, I did have my daughter, and it was just such a degenerate type thing. And now, mind you, when they rioted at Penn State, they did not riot because he had been raping boys. They rioted because they took down Joe Paterno's statue. That tells you the mind of evil that is pervasive at Penn State.
It is evil.
For a football game, just like for some music with R. Kelly, it's crazy. Like, people act like there can't be people who sing who are normal. People who are great coaches who are normal. Like, it's weird how selfish people are. It's like, it got to be that one. That's the one. It's weird.
It's very weird, but it lets you know, like, you have a mindset that you're going to attack somebody over a celebrity. Mm-hmm. You're going to hurt someone else over a celebrity or a sports figure, but something actually is going on that's real in your life and you don't want to address it. It tells you what people's mind is, because it's really, really, really disturbing. So I just wanted to say that. And about our young sister who was gunned down in Texas, it's a very, very sad thing. I'm praying for her spirit. I'm praying for her family. But the devil is alive, okay? I know that's not a clinical term. I don't believe in the devil's a critter. I believe the devil is an energy in people. But the devil is alive, because I watched an interview with, I don't know if you guys mentioned it. You probably did, of Avante Williams' mother, who was shot last year, 2017, on that same stretch of road, and how the police brutalized him after he'd been shot, rather than investigating who had shot him. So it's this type of evil culture that we live in that allowed them to probably let away the first killer, to really not look for them, that allowed this girl to unfortunately meet her death in the last few days.
You're so right, Sonia Ross. All these predators have become very, very egotistical. Sandusky was egotistical. George Zimmerman, after he killed Trayvon Martin, a kid, his ego just went off the chain. Him just throwing his gun around towards people on the street, pointing guns and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's like these predators, their minds are like on top 10 now. It's above 10. They feel like they're invincible.
But Sonia Ross, this has been going on. This has been going on for a long time, to Sin's point. I mean, Sonia Ross, I'm sure you remember the researching of John Wayne Gacy. He had fan art. He had people that was celebrating him. Even with John Gotti, the Teflon Don, who had been on record for sawing people in half. But the people were mad when John Gotti finally got arrested because of him spilling the beans, like they say, on a recorded wire. But the people, a lot of people in the New York area, the tri-state area, they were upset that the Teflon Don, who had been on record with killing people, that he was arrested. So yes, of course, fanaticism can celebrate the worst of human behavior.
Well, Sonia, how do people who see this stuff, who are disgusted by this stuff, who are disgusted also about how slow people move to these predators, how do they deal with their own sanity in this?
Well, I think that you have to go and you have to get support, because a lot of people, of course, I don't watch that type of material, such as Surviving R. Kelly and the news and things like that. You have to protect yourself. Of course, I always go that if you have a trusted family relationship or trusted friendship, kind of talk about your feelings and whatever's going on inside you to induce intense reactions, because sometimes we have such an intense reaction because we've been traumatized ourselves and we haven't really dealt with it. Someone was sharing with me today that a lot of people, I guess, on Twitter that she was reading were saying that they were crying when they were watching the Surviving R. Kelly and all these different things, and she was just commenting that she didn't have the same reaction. She was disgusted, but it wasn't as visceral for her. And I said, a lot of those people who are crying have been traumatized themselves, and they're identifying emotionally with what these people are saying, because their trauma was unaddressed. Their families probably ignored them. So if they're adults and they can seek a safe space for people, I know that word safe space is kind of corny, but it's kind of overused by the other people. But, if you can seek a place where you can find refuge in an important relationship where you can be vulnerable and you're safe there, then try to, have that person support you. And if you need outside help, then you can go seek mental health services, because these things like that are very, they're very, very triggering. Because I know a lot of people are upset about what happened to the sister in the McDonald's, what happened to Jasmine Barnes, this whole Surviving R. Kelly thing. So these things, are very, very emotional for a lot of people. But the one thing I was going to say to Prince's point about John Wayne Gacy, the more recent degenerate, Dylan Roof, he was, he's getting marriage proposals and love letters while he's in prison. And I don't know if you guys saw the story that a woman wrote him about how she could best do a mass shooting on black people to get his advice. I was just like,
I was
evil.
Read about that too.
Like
You're right, Sonya.
There's a lot of evil people out there. You also had women that were fans of, I can't remember this guy's name, but it was a white guy who had a wife and I believe two little girls. He killed all three of them. Oh, his wife was pregnant with their boy, and he killed all three of them. And yet you had some women out here trying to write love letters to him. This guy just,
absolutely.
It's crazy. In the way, I'm not going to say how he killed them because I had to turn when they started describing how he killed his little girls and stuff. But it was very horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one thing about, Sonya Ross, you've alluded to several times while you were speaking with us here on the line is, watching your mental diet. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I think, everybody has to be consciously aware of, including what you're choosing to ingest. For me personally, looking at the Surviving R. Kelly, a lot of the things they talked about, I pretty much knew about, but it was just interesting to hear the women speak for the first time now that they're older about what they actually went through. But nonetheless, there's a lot of things out here that can scramble your mental compass. So could you speak to that too a little bit as far as guarding your mental diet and what you're ingesting?
Well, I mean, you just have to. I mean, I know I say it and people are like, oh, it's not that easy. I need to know what's going on. I need to stay connected. But you don't need to hear the details or how people have been raped and molested. Honestly, reading about it in print is a little less activating emotionally and mentally than watching it and seeing somebody's actual body composition, their facial expressions, their emotions on their face and things like that. But I would say you have to protect your mind against all of it because we can know, like, I know that Surviving R. Kelly is on. I did not read about it. I did not watch it. I know it's on and I know what it's about, but I'm not sitting there ingesting it. You can know what the topics that are in the culture are without diving deep and going into it. But in the same vein, because a lot of people have so much unaddressed trauma, especially in our community, they watch it because they empathize with the people, and those people talking are actually giving voice to what they can't give voice to just yet. I'll share a quick anecdote. I'm a domestic violence survivor. When the whole thing happened with Rihanna and Chris Brown, I didn't care anything about Rihanna, but I followed that story very closely. Why? Because I got to see that woman go through her process, and it was a process I wasn't able to go through just yet in my own healing. So do you get the parallel that I'm making there? Like, a lot of times we go into it because we don't have our own voice yet. And so, it's a balancing act that we have to do.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. It's like for those who suffer trauma, for those who want to look at those things to see that there are other survivors like them, it's a good thing. But if you're not ready yet to actually hear in deep details, like what Surviving R. Kelly or certain descriptions, for example, then maybe you should not, go in 100% like that unless you're ready to see that type of trauma.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Because it's very, very activating, and it's very, and at this point, I did not have that knowledge regarding mental health. So when I'm watching this whole thing that happened with Rihanna and Chris Brown, I'm watching it and I'm reading about it, and it was very activating to me, but I did not realize what was the source of the activation because I had not really addressed my trauma at that time. So you have to be very mindful of these things and just the impact they can have on you, because it's very distressing. And to see these people go through these things and see these girls, how much pain that I'm sure that they remain in, it's very hard. But let me just make another quick point. I know I apologize for being long. Let me just say about I was reading an article in People about R. Kelly, and R. Kelly I don't know if you guys have addressed this, but R. Kelly just didn't happen in a vacuum. His brother, I was reading an article, the brother said that he was molested for like 6 years, from like 7 to 14.
Yes.
These people are created. People don't come out of the womb as monsters. And so I just wanted to bring that into it as well.
Oh, no, that's an important aspect to make as well. We talked about, like, usually if like an older sibling or the middle child or somebody is molested by an adult, sometimes they may go and touch their siblings too, because we had somebody calling, talking about, that type of experience. And usually if an adult touch a kid, the kid is going to touch their siblings or even other kids at school, or even become a predator as an adult, as we saw R. Kelly. When it comes to a lot of different traumas, we was telling the public that there's two types of people. There's people who continue the trauma and become a predator and a monster. And then there's those who try to prevent it from happening to anyone else and becomes a hero and a fighter for those people to make sure they don't have to go through that trauma. So you have those two type of individuals that come out of those type of situations.
Yeah, I definitely no, absolutely. Manny Anger said, "What about serial killers? Serial killers say they had perfect childhoods. Some of them did, some of them didn't. It's a case by case basis. Some of them didn't have anything deep. They just have a defect in their brain and they don't have any empathy, and so they feel like mutilating people. They don't have any boundaries." But I'll just say that.
Oh no, that's definitely a good example to talk about. Was it Tim Bundy? I think they were interviewing him one time when he was in prison.
Ted Bundy.
He said I had a perfect childhood and stuff. But although, to be honest with you, sometimes you can't believe them too. Some of them may be lying.
Oh no, because he's a pathological liar. But yeah,
exactly.
but sometimes they do. Sometimes they're okay, but they're just something's wrong in their brain. They're just off, and their parents are off. There was a kid here in Maryland. He got into a beef. This is when I first moved to Maryland. He got in a beef with a friend, and he beat the friend to death. Dismembered his body in the garage and put him in a trunk. They were 16. Like, what? His parents had him flee to Israel. His sister disavowed him, disowned him, and she said, "Our parents were lovely. They never did anything to you, but I'll let you know that my brother's been a monster since he was little." Sometimes it just happens that way.
And sometimes it goes, like you said, it goes unnoticed by the parents. They don't see, or maybe they may see it, but they don't consider it to be a big deal because they see it as small actions. They say sometimes one of the examples of saying that a kid may have this type of behavior is if they're torturing little animals, for example.
Absolutely. And that stuff is hidden. And you have to remember, these people, especially the serial killers, they're deceitful from a very young age. And that's how you know it's pathological. They're deceitful from a very young age.
Yeah, that is true. And a lot of people that might fly over their head. But, I worked as a daycare worker for some time before as well. And you can clearly see which kids were already developing a pathology for lying, and it was something interesting to watch. And then what I would do, I would just kind of interpret that, and I said, man, what is it like once they reach full stats? Because seeing you now, we talked about certain individuals that we know that they develop a pathological lying a spirit and an aura about them, and they actually understand manipulation. Because in Sonya, you can speak a little bit more to it. People really forget that babies, or they don't understand that babies already can understand at the very least the concept of manipulation. They watch how the parents respond to certain things, when they decide to cry, when they decide not to cry, when they want to throw a tantrum.
Absolutely.
And so those things have to be taken into account.
That's why a lot of psychologists said that as a parent, you're not supposed to treat all your kids the same. You're supposed to watch their personalities, even as toddlers, and deal with them accordingly to their personality, because it helps them become more of a balanced adult. When you have that one size fit all, one of your kids is going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. You have to have some nuance with it. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys have a great day and Happy New Year.
I'm so glad you also called in, Sonya. Happy New Year.
Yeah, we was going to get to you.
Okay, guys. Take care.
Peace.
All right. There we go.
And on that note, I guess, should we allow one more, or should we end it here?
Oh, no, man. Sometimes when we have that last call, and we're going to accept one more call, the call just be all over the place. And it would be a great hallmark moment to end off on.
Well,
Sonya Ross.
There's part 3 and part 4. So anybody who didn't call in for this one, you could call in for part 3 and part 4, because it's going to be on tonight on Hulu, for those who have Hulu. And then also on the Lifetime channel as well. What? So, everyone, we appreciate y'all being here.
Y'all didn't cancel Hulu like Monique said?
Monique wasn't on Hulu.
I'm messing around. I'm messing around. But anyway, folks, again, we definitely appreciate all the people who've called. I think a few people donated, saying we just want to shout them out. That's all. And then, we're going to get up out of this thing, man.
Yes, Eric, we appreciate you donating, and also Happy New Year's. Also, Queen, we appreciate you for donating as well. She said, Prince and Sin, thought crimes, you are definitely leaving a footprint in black culture. Oh, we hope so.
We hope so.
We hope so.
We hope so.
I mean, to be honest with you, we don't want to be... we want to start off early in our careers not being punks, We be silent on certain things, then people think that they could put you into certain boxes to mingle with certain people. You got to
You got to set the tone.
You got to set the tone. So we're setting the tone right now that we're not into that weirdo shit. What we want to do is be able to do our business, do it clean, focus on our animation, focus on all the other stuff we're doing behind the scenes business-wise. We have no time for this weirdo shit. We do not want to defend any type of predator. We don't want to be in that type of space. If you're a predator, you already know not to fuck with us. So it's really important to set the tone early to be like, this is not where you want to go. Again, we're for black children. We're for the people. We're for black people.
Integrity and decency.
We're for people who are decent and have integrity across the board as well. So we just want to let it be known right now where... Look, we may like certain people's stuff, but if it comes out and there's proof, and proof is important, make no mistake, Dark Crimes is not about just ranting on anybody.
Fake outrage.
Yeah, even if we have an inclination, there has to be proof, which is why we're jumping on R. Kelly, because there's tapes and there's proof. So
it is what it is. It is more than proof. Yeah, I mean, this has been long overdue. You know what I'm saying? And another thing about it, who wants to look like Ebro? You're going hard in on certain people, then all of a sudden you don't say nothing about certain people because they hung around the station. So that's that's when you get into that whole weird industry shit, and that's not necessarily us. We know real people. We out and about in the world. We are amongst real black folks, and we see real experiences, and we have been through real experiences ourselves. So that's why you're not going to get that energy from us, that fugazi energy that we see, that is most often a facilitator of the behaviors of the likes of the R. Kellys and so many other predators in the community as well, who happen to not be famous as well. It's beyond celebrityism.
And also, before we close out, do we have any comments on Facebook and Periscope, Prince, to give those people a shout out and some love?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Andre, David. I'm not going to really say y'all last name because I don't know if y'all want y'all stuff out there like that. Rodney, shouts out to Rico as well. And let's see here. Anyone else? I think that was it. And shouts out to Brandy Kane, the big homie. She everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So shouts out to Brandy Kane. And to the people on Periscope. Let's see here. We got Jeffrey. We got Misery. I think I'm saying it correctly. Classic as well. We got Tim. And we got Chris Mathis. And also we got Big as well. So we definitely appreciate you all for tuning in and supporting us.
Yeah, and everybody on Periscope, make sure you share the live stream on Twitter as well, because Periscope is connected to Twitter. And, Facebook people, is up to you. We're just still there on Facebook because there's still a lot of people on Facebook. But at the same time, we're not trying to make anybody make new accounts or anything, because we know that Facebook is doing a lot of fugazi shit that they need to be called out
Most
on.
of the social media sites are.
Yeah, but they are the most.
Harvesting your information. Yeah, some of them haven't been exposed yet.
They're the most outrageous, and they're the ones that have been exposed, and they should be used as an example. But everyone, we do appreciate y'all. And
y'all take care.
Y'all take care. Peace.
What business are you in?
Oh, I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing...